me and Ryan have been officially welcomed to the jungle that is Barstool Sports.
Our white whale, Sidney Crosby.
Shave his head! Shave his head! Shave his head!
Ryan Whitney, Paul Bissonette, R.A., Mike Grinelli, Spittin Chiclets.
How are you, hockey fans? What's going on? Welcome to episode 565 of the Spittin Chiclets podcast. We're in the middle of both conference finals. Feels like I haven't seen or talked to you guys in a month because it's been a full week, but we are here to talk hockey, to talk about the Oilers, to talk about the Canes staying alive, to talk about it all with some very special guests, and it's all presented to you by Pink Whitney. That's not a coffee business drink, and that's actually Pink Whitney early in the morning. He knows what's up. Easy to get fired up when you take your shot with Pink Whitney. Local bar, local liquor store, doesn't matter. Get the big bottle, get the small bottle, get the nip. Enjoy yourself with some Pink Whitney as the summer begins and as we watch some amazing hockey in the conference finals. Guys, I'm in a great mood. Keith, I'm assuming he's still in a great mood, even though last night it could have ended. Biz, you're just a loser still, but I love you. What's going on?
What's going on with me after you called me a loser?
Well, not a loser. Your team's a loser. You're not a loser.
I mean, I got you bodying me. I got Jackie Redmond bodying me. I got Paul Maurice laughing when she's bodying me. So, I mean, the L's keep rolling on for old busy boy here. Jans, how was your Memorial Day weekend, my friend?
Well, fill us in because I was at the game, so I didn't hear what happened with Jackie.
It was
and
amazing.
Paul.
Amazing.
I think that the conversation is like keeping a good bench and like Paul Maurice encouraging them to celebrate even the little things, whether it's the block shots or just a simple outlet pass. Maybe it's a good stick in lane, not just the fancy goals and assists, right? You need to have a good bench and make sure you're pumping the guy's tires. Kind of like when you pumped Gordo's tires when he used to block shots, and then even sometimes when he got out of the way, he used to chirp him. You know, you just got to have a lively bench, chiming in, keeping the morale high, and it's evident that they've done that. But hey, credit the Carolina Hurricanes, boys. There was not much fight in those first three games. The first two, it felt like there was 30% of their fans left in the building by the time the game ended. So they get an opportunity to not only bring that home to stretch it to 5, but to put on finally what we would deem a good performance in front of that home crowd, the crazy Caniacs in Carolina. So Jackie Redmond, she bodied me pretty good there, and Paul Maurice had a good chuckle as a result of it.
Maurice was like, oh.
Why don't we roll it?
We have it? Let's roll.
I don't know if the guys prepared that in time. In the meantime, we can kill it.
I laughed out loud. I mean, I'm watching. I'm like, whoa, you got an NHL Stanley Cup winning coach that's just like, we're not allowed to roll the clips. Apparently, they'll sue us. So that one won't be shown. But we just pretty much described it perfectly. Very, very funny. Another thing that was funny is G tried to switch the series around early by getting down to game 2 in Raleigh, where he rang the siren. I believe it was kind of tough for him with his wrist. I mean, you could tell he's going all in on that, and it did absolutely nothing. I mean, look at the scoreboard as he's doing it. Everyone's like, get this guy off the big screen right now. We're down 3-0. He can barely spin the thing. So I don't know if he wants to pop on quick and mention if his wrist or arm or shoulders. Do you need surgery?
Shoulder was hurting, boys. Shoulder was killing the next day. Yeah, it wasn't as much the wrist, but my shoulders aren't much bigger than my wrist. So, yeah, I was struggling. What'd you guys think of the tracksuit, though? Everyone was calling me Grinelli Patino.
Very nice. Very nice.
Tracksuit was unreal. Really nice.
Ordered it on Amazon, but what an awesome opportunity to promote the Gargoyles, to get down there. Like, such a welcoming organization, the Canes, where, like, it was funny because they were so optimistically positive too. Like, everyone in the lot was like, we love our boys. Go get them, boys. Like, we know they're down and out this year, but our boys will be back next year. It was almost like it was like their local high school team.
Before game 2, they were saying that?
Oh yeah. They knew they were down and out. They knew that, like, they basically had no chance to win, but they were just optimistic and, like, loved their team in a sense of, like, we'll be back next year. We love our core. We love Roddy. We love what they're building here. So it went to $30 million in money this summer. So
Yep.
Yeah, they were. It was. They're so welcoming and so nice. That tailgate gets so wild. There's guys dressed up in like Chewbacca costumes and Ric Flair costumes walking around. So it's pretty cool. But people were loving the gargoyle stuff. We had a gargoyles tent, and I mean, they said we got tons of season ticket signups as well. So it's pretty cool.
Maybe not after I ripped him after game 3 for having heart, though.
I have a lot of messages from Canes fans saying I was going to go to a Gargoyles game. I will never show face in there again. Now,
yeah, they will.
I think they will, and we're going to get into the Hurricanes and the Panthers. We have the Hurricanes color analyst on. Tripp Tracy's been doing it forever. He's going to join us. We have Ryan Warsofsky, gold medal winning coach for Team USA.
Huge.
I think 1933, incredible story there. We have him coming on later in the show, and we also have Craig Ludwig, who is just an all-time shot blocker. His shin pads were as wide as the screen right now is, and I got a big old Max
pink Whitney bottle behind you.
The one behind you. Those were his shinnies.
Yeah. Try getting a shot past these. So, great show lined up. Biz, quickly before we get into Dallas and Edmonton. The Altcast with Will Arnett, very funny. I popped on for a little bit. I know Jans was on. How did that come about? Was it enjoyable for you?
Yeah, I think like 10 days to 2 weeks beforehand, we were in the mix of playoffs, and they called me in and they asked if I wanted to do it. Obviously, at that point, I assumed that Toronto was going to beat Florida in advance, and it would have been a Toronto Altcast, and we would be the ones pumping Carolina in this series. But no, Florida ruined it, of course. Jans and the boys just put us in a blender. Kachuk and the rest of the crew, Brad Marchand, my arch nemesis. But man, getting to do an Altcast with an A-lister and a guy as funny and quick-witted as that, it was awesome. We had some incredible guests. Obviously, Chuck stopped by. He's kind of got those ant glasses. Like, he looks like an aunt, like our grandma, doesn't he? The same ones he had when he came on our podcast. He's just like, I think he's got to burn those things. He looks like he's got bifocals on, or put a strip of tape in the middle and look like a Hanson brother or something. Then we had Al Michaels. I let him know that I didn't realize it was him who did the call, and then he roasted me. And then you and Jans popped on. We had Chiclets memes popped in because Will Arnett's obsessed with Chiclets memes ever since he tried to sell him that script that was basically just a knockoff of a few movies that were put together. Jason Bajorn.
He has one scene.
Jason Bajorn.
It's just basically like a spoof version of Jason Bourne. So that's what memes is running with. But he's so endearing that I think Will Arnett wants to actually do the movie and provide the funding for it. So you got Will Arnett going from hanging out with Bradley Cooper, making a movie with him, to now knocking on Chiclets memes door and wanting to collaborate with an all-time great. So as long as those memes keep on coming, I don't give a fuck what he does outside of work, but hopefully we can all get a role inside that movie. So very, very cool experience for me. Will's been unreal to us. I mean, Shanny's the one who introduced us to him, right? And unfortunately, he's not going to be coming back with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I kind of feel bad. He introduced me to a new friend. Then he loses his job. I just got to be very supportive of him right now and continue to rock my ambassador jacket.
Do you guys have to give those back now that Shanny's gone, or how's that?
Well, work? Here, I guess I'll show you the alterations we made quickly.
There'll be a call coming from Toronto. I think we're gonna need those things back.
There's a UPS box outside of your house with the label already made. Put the jacket.
No, they wouldn't even pay for the label. It's you can pay to return it too. And then you know what? Soon enough, maybe you guys get some.
I wasn't going to do this. What's that?
Wherever Shanny goes, you can be an ambassador for that team.
Well, yeah, I'll just add it to the
team. The island.
Add it to the team list. Yeah, but I wasn't going to do this. You guys brought up the Altcast, and then all of a sudden, I got the ambassador jacket on. Let me take the sticker off. After a few days of thinking, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy.
No.
But seeing how this series has gone with Carolina, I would offer Marner 8 times 12, take it or leave it, and I would consider rolling it back and bringing JT if he's willing to bring a hometown discount. It's kind of like I'm addicted to a drug, and I just want.
We know.
I want to prove people wrong with that core 4 and just.
Warning. The following statements are about to be made by a deranged Leafs fan. The views expressed are his and his only. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt because, remember, he is a deranged Leafs fan.
There are great timing. There are people losing their mind right now that we're talking Leafs. The fact that we're talking, but
I wasn't going to talk long about them. I just
You got a hat on and a jacket.
I just wanted to say that I would offer Marner 8 times 12. I'd say you're a coward if you don't take this. You still have some things to prove here. We've put a lot of money in your jeans. Let's roll it back. Let's hit this fucking gym this summer. Enough with the fucking boat of Muskoka. It's not even that good of boating. Sam Gagne is full of shit. Let's hit the fucking gym and let's win a mug here with this core 4. Let's go. Marner, if you're listening, if Marner's listening, I believe in you. I believe at you at 8 times 12. I still think that's a little bit of an overpayment based on what we've seen come crunch time. But let's roll it back. And that means Nyes has to take 8 times 8. He has to take a little bit of a slight discount, and then so does Marner.
You know what? Taking a discount it's been what the Leafs do. So I think that this could work. It's what they're known for. Guys take discounts. Guys want to win. It's just that's Maple Leaf hockey. So we'll see next year. Maybe the core 4 returns. Last week it was 8 times 8 for Marner. He just gave,
I agree. I'm saying
he gave 32 more million because of Carolina playing this bad. But we shouldn't. Carolina got to win. Let's just pump Carolina's tires for a minute. We'll get to that series, but because Craig Ludwig is going to be joining us, I believe at 9:30, 20 minutes, I think we have to talk Oilers stars. I know that Florida Carolina was last night, but this has been incredible. Even for me and the expectations, I had Edmonton in 7. I didn't see it going like this so far. Where I mean, we're talking the Oilers have looked much better than the Dallas Stars. And after game 1, the collapse in the third period through game 2, I mean, basically 108 of 120 minutes through game 2, the Oilers, I mean, dominated this team. And it's all based kind of on 5-on-5 hockey. I mean, you look at the Oilers scoring depth, what they're getting. I mean, Connor McDavid leads the playoffs in scoring. Rantanen and Leon are tied for second with 21 points. McDavid has 22. But the Oilers have been so good with their depth and other players that it's not even a huge storyline that McDavid and Leon continue to do what they do, averaging around a 1.5 points per game in the playoffs. They're 3rd and 4th all time. We've mentioned that for a while. I mean, it's been 4 years that these guys doing it. But this year, it's everyone else with Edmonton and what they're doing. And I think for me, being a defenseman and the times I've ripped on him, Evan Bouchard, this guy, he is getting $10 million. So for any fans out there who's not a $10 million player, no, he's actually maybe more than a $10 million player. This guy, every playoff gets better and better. You saw him score the huge goal to start it out in game 3 in Dallas. So the Oilers lead 2-1. I will say last game, Stuart Skinner won him that game, boys.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was phenomenal. Second period, game 3 in particular, just amazing save after amazing save. He robbed Wyatt Johnson once. He robbed Blackwell, I think, at the beginning of maybe the first period. But we have to talk about the breaks the Oilers got in game 3. Because I'm not a real fan if I'm not going to sit there and admit that a little bit of a ref show that the Oilers really, really were on the right side of. And it all kind of started with the Kulak over the glass penalty. I'm wondering your guys' opinion. So they showed the replay. We're kind of watching. I was with Bunzo Keith. He was over the house. We're watching. And they showed the replay of the puck going over the glass, and I kind of just figured, like, kids are running around, like, oh, penalty. Bouchard comes down and scores quick. I'm like, oh, shorthanded goal. I'm like, wait. I was like, how was that? How did that not get called? It was pretty blatantly over the glass. Well, the refs got together, decided that they didn't have one of the refs saying, listen, I saw it for sure, not get tipped. To me, I don't know why you don't call it, because then it can be challenged, but you can't not call it and have Dallas say, listen, like, go back and look at this. So maybe look at it like you call the penalty. It's almost like the way they call majors now. Then they can be reviewed. You can rescind them. You can. So I Dallas Stars fans had a legit gripe with that one. And not only did they get screwed on the non-call, the Oilers got 2 goals in what would have been the power play.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your opinion was on that, Biz or Keith, but we got lucky. And we also got lucky because there was a quick whistle. I forget the Dallas player. The puck was never tied up and took it like off Skinner's pad. They blew the whistle quick. Could have been a goal there. Shouldn't have been a whistle. So Oilers very lucky with the refs game 3.
In order to win a mug, man, you got to get some breaks along the way. And even going back to the game before, like I was arguing with people online about the Darnell Nurse on Rupe Hintz. So he ends up taking warm up in game 3, doesn't end up playing. That's also a huge loss. So I don't know how quickly you guys want to dive into that, but going back to what you said about game 3, where the over the glass and the fact that they respond with 2 goals under a minute. And I don't know, man, with McDavid playing the way that he's playing so far in this series, and I know you said he only had 3 goals heading into that game, but he was in full McJesus mode in that one. Like Harley tries to pinch on him. He fucking put the afterburners on. Great little give and go between him and Nuge, who's been, after I felt like maybe the LA series, he was a little bit quiet, but since then, man, Nuge has looked a lot like he did that year that he put up the 100 points. And like I said, when McDavid's doing the things that he was doing in game 3, he's fucking unstoppable. The Rottenen, he tried to pinch off on the wall and get going north. I believe that was the 3rd or 4th one. And even though Dallas dominated that second period, they ended up coming out on top and get a few of those late goals. So really everything going Edmonton's way right now, including Skinner, who you said who stole the show. I thought he was first star in that hockey game. Like it was all Dallas in that second period. It was an onslaught. I think he had 20 stops. But it is just it's unbelievable. Now, do you guys want to dive into the Inglewood chop from Darnell Nurse on Rupe Hintz or what?
The love tap?
So
I'm joking.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, it's a great discussion, right? Like, obviously, Edmonton fans are going psycho online, calling it a love tap, but I agree with Pete DeBoer, though, and I know it's a double standard because it's not McJesus, but if Harley gave a half windup to McDavid's foot there and McDavid's foot was broken, like Oilers fans would be having a fucking meltdown. Like they would be filing a lawsuit like the Canadians did when Pacioretty got put through the fucking dasher board by Chara. Like, could you imagine Witt talking right now if that was McDavid's foot that got broke?
I would like to think that I would still stand by the point that play happens legit 100 times a year. I mean, Biz, you think that it was not a huge over the shoulder windup. It caught him in the perfect, now not perfect spot for the Dallas Stars and Rupe Hintz, but like it was not a major. There's no way if you look at the replay that's a major, and it's not a suspension. It was bad. It was a dirty play. It was a Stanley Cup playoff type play, and it was really bad luck.
Correct. And my issue is with more of the deranged idiots online who root for the Oilers saying that like, oh, he's diving all over the ice. It's like, he gave it a pretty hard half windup, got him with the heel on the stick, right in an area that we know. Chris Pronger chimed in. He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I used to get guys there all the time. There's a nerve down there on your foot, and it'll shoot up your whole fucking leg. And he knew exactly where to go for it. Half of them were saying that he got him in the shin pad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He got him right on the top of the laces. Jans, I don't know if you ended up switching over to using those shot blockers where I felt like most guys would be wearing them nowadays. It feels like guys have actually moved away from wearing the shot blockers.
Yeah, I switched over in New York. Everyone had to wear them. They had to wear the ones on your feet and then like the thing on your hand, which you see more and more guys wearing the ones on your hands. I think it's one of those things where it's stupid not to, just because as a defenseman too, you stand in front of the net. So many pucks can get, redeflected and hit you in the foot, and missing a game, especially in playoff time. Like you're missing Rupe Hintz, which I mean he tried to take warm up, so clearly he's hurt. They could miss him the rest of the series. Like, why not just wear those shot blockers and then you can kind of. I don't think that really, especially how fast he skates, like he's not going to lose a step from it. Like, especially during playoffs, I would make my guys wear them or at least try to get them convinced to wear them. But yeah, I think you explained it perfectly. What I think it was, a dirty play, but it happens all the time. But it was an unfortunate, where it hit him, and he probably did break his foot, right? Like at least
I would think so.
He was wearing a walking boot post game after game 2. So it just goes back to the breaks where like no pun intended, like that happens. They don't get the call. They end up losing that game. and then followed into game 3 where you get the puck over the glass. And I mean, shout out to Emily Kaplan. As soon as
oh my God, dude,
they don't call that penalty and then they get 2 goals in the back of their net in less than a minute, she wheels on the bench and she's right in DeBoer's grill being like, what'd you make of the non-call? Like, right. I'm like, oh, no. He looked like he was going to headbutt her.
My kids were like, how mad do you think that coach is right now? And I'm like, I don't know how he's doing this interview. Like, I would have just walked down the other end of the bench and been like, I cannot do this right now. Not right now.
And shout out to her. Like, that's her job. She had an incredible interview. She had an incredible interview with Skinner after game 2. It was awesome. He was talking about, the ups and downs and how, like, the team's like a family and how many people are in his corner. All these things, like, great questions by her. When she walked, she couldn't have been thrilled to have to go to the bench there. And he's sitting there. I love it. He gets the tap on the shoulder and she's there. He's I can't imagine his head. Like, what a pro DeBoer.
He's like, give me that fucking mic. This thing on, motherfucker.
Gary, you motherfucker. He's yelling at the head of officials. But yeah, I was like, oh man, that's a tough interview to have to give. So you guys just got screwed on a non over the glass delay of game penalty, then gave up 2 goals, and this is kind of a disaster. What do you think?
It reminded me of like when your dad's already pissed off at you, and then you have like a homework assignment due that like they have to go get something at the store for you at 10 o'clock at night, and you're like, hey dad.
Oh no.
And they turn around and they're like, what?
Yeah.
That was shout out to Emily.
Shout out to Emily for walking right inside of that one.
I think that quickly on Dallas, like looking here though, a lot of the discussion was of their depth, right? And we went through their lines and the players on each line and how good they are offensively, but they're not getting much. I like right now, Wyatt Johnson and plus minus is different now than it used to be looked at. He's minus 17. Duchesne's minus 13. Harley's minus 7. Jamie Benn's minus 8. Like they 5-on-5 are not even close to the Oilers, and they weren't really close to the Colorado Avalanche either. So I'm kind of shocked. Like looking here, I mean, you look at the goals, right? Like Rupe Hintz has 2 5-on-5 goals. Granlund has 2 5-on-5 goals. Wyatt Johnson has 2 5-on-5 goals. Sagan has 3. Duchesne has none. It's been kind of something where, I mean, Robertson got on the board with that tip. He didn't even know he scored.
He didn't even know he scored.
He's like, I got that one, like, which actually could be great for him. Maybe just getting one, even though you didn't know you touched it, can get you going. I thought Bichel scored that goal. That Bichel is going to be good, by the way. He reminds me of like a better skating Doug Murray. I'm sure San Jose Sharks fans listening remember Doug Murray, just a machine with bench press. Like that's like the size of Bichel. Now, at the end of game 1, when Dallas had that amazing comeback in the third period, don't know what he was thinking with kind of turtling with Corey
He was thinking
Perry.
with his vagina. That's what he was thinking with, buddy. You can't be fucking turtling in that instance. That's such a bad like morale thing.
Especially when you're that big.
Corey Perry, the guy's collecting Social Security. He's $180. What the fuck, man? You're 6'6", 6'7", 230 pounds, buddy. You got to eat
more than that.
Yeah, you better eat a couple on the chin if you fuck it, like for your team, man. You turtle, and then obviously Perry in old school fashion mocking them, and rightfully so. I felt like the series turned on a dime at that instance. I
agree. And as an Oilers fan, that third period and our stream, shout out our stream, where one of the craziest streams we've ever done. Put it this way, it ended up with us like play-by-playing the Indiana Pacers New York Knicks game 1, I believe. So like I don't know what happened. Big Cat came on, Blutman came on. Immediately the Oilers gave up 5 unanswered in the third period. It was a nightmare. But the next morning, I'm sitting around, I'm kind of reading about the game. I'm like, I'm still very confident in the Oilers because they had controlled that entire game, 5-on-5 mostly. Third period, stupid penalties, awful PK, but everything kind of turned out to be what I thought it could be in games 2 and 3. So awesome spot. A couple numbers here. This is courtesy of Jason Greger, who does a great job covering the Oilers all year. The Oilers are 10-2 in their last 12 playoff games. They've dominated LA, Vegas, and Dallas by outscoring them 48-29. And it's because so many players are producing. The Oilers have 8 players with 4+ goals in the last 12 games. 4+ goals is a 27 goal pace per an 82 game season. So you think of like what guys are doing. I mean, like Zach Hyman, he has over 100 hits. I think he has 115 hits right now.
Dubas.
The most he ever had in a season was like 101 in 82 games. And he's scoring now. He had 2 beautiful goals in game 3, the breakaway goal to make it 4-1. And then that pass by Evander Kane, that's sauce. Oh,
well, it was a bit of a wobbly sauce. A little bit of a wobbly sauce.
I thought it was creamy, nice sauce.
Yeah, a little ragu, meat sauce.
He's the 9th player since 2006 with 4 goals, 4 or more goals, and 100 hits in one postseason. And he could have a possible 10 games left.
Glad we gave all the boys $11 million out of their entry level, so we couldn't bring Zach Hyman back. Great job.
Bring it back, though. Run it back. Run it back. I just, yeah, the 5-on-5 play. And I will also say this: there is so much discussion about the rematch of last year's Cup final, which I think happened in 83 and 84 with the Oilers and the Islanders. The Islanders won the first one. The Oilers won the second, Gretzky's first Cup. And then it happened in 08-09 with the Penguins, where I was on the losing team. And then they got, the next season, Sid grabbed his cup. So it is setting up for Gretzky, Crosby, McDavid to kind of all do it the same way. I don't want to hear the rematch discussion yet. Florida, yes, you're in the finals. Edmonton, this series is far from over. If we can get the game tonight, then I feel a lot different. But if Dallas shows up and this thing's 2-2, all the discussion of the Stanley Cup rematch will make me sick, because Dallas ain't going away. Go ahead, Biz.
Zach Hyman nugget. Career high in 82 game season is 117 hits. This is from G in the chat. He has 109 through 14 games in these playoffs. Leads in it. Did Whit already read this off?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I must have blacked out during that one. And last thing before we throw it to Ludwig, can we roll that clip of DeBoer getting interviewed by Emily Kaplan so everybody has a reference, and we can ask Ludwig about it, and maybe if he was watching, how much he had a laugh.
I can't do the clip either. You already said this.
No. He said that they have the clip ready. The other one they couldn't do.
No, he's talking about the post game where he gave the McDavid line, not the interview. Can't show the interview. Can only show the post game where he's like, if this was McDavid, Whitney would be losing his mind and like outside in his driveway, flipping out, screaming at neighbors about it.
So we can only show certain clips, but not others. But let's bring in Ludwig after we do a couple ads.
We got a couple ads here. We're gonna start this thing. Sorry, I got to get over. I'm trying to balance some things here. We're gonna start game time, guys. NHL playoffs are here. God, somehow they're almost over in a way. But the only place to buy hard-to-get playoff tickets is Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NHL playoff tickets. Prices on the app actually go down the closer it gets to puck drop, and you could save up to 60% when buying last-minute tickets. Apparently, $75 right now is the way you could get into Game 5, I believe, which would be in Carolina. So check it out right now. Game Time's where it's at. What are you waiting for? Get involved right now. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Chiclets for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code Chiclets, $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. And then also, we got Roback. Biz, I think you have Roback on right now. Oh, these shirts. Use code Chiclets on roback.com for a generous 20% off your first purchase through the end of this week. Their all-American collection just dropped. We are here for it. Fresh designs would be an understatement, and they have some incredible new products. If you're looking for good USA-themed polo for the summer, Ryder Cup coming up, USA-themed, Roback has you covered. These designs are incredible. Prints, stripes, American flags, you name it, Roback has it. Second is their shorts. If Biz is doing a workout, he's wearing the Roback
they're unreal
shorts. Incredible. And you kind of talked about them to me before when we were in Atlanta. They're simple, though. They're easy to wear, so comfortable. There's not a better workout short short on the market, lined or unlined. These shorts are so good. Lightweight, easy to move in, perfect length. And the final one, we didn't even know Rollback had swim trunks, but we just tried them, and they may have the best swim trunk on the market. The quality is unmatched. So like I said, use code Chiclets on rollback.com. Generous 20% off your first purchase to the end of the week. CHICLETS on RHOBACK.com. 20% off all polos, shorts, swim trunks, and more with code Chiclets. And with that, let's bring in a man who blocks shots for a living. He ate shots. He got in front of and in guys' faces in the crease. And he actually interviewed us years ago at the Nashville Predators Dallas Stars outdoor game at the Cotton Bowl. Let's bring him in, Craig Ludwig.
Woo!
Good morning,
There he
guys.
is.
What's up, Craig? How you doing?
I'm doing good. That seemed like light years away, from that
I know.
classic game.
I know, Craig. Also, I want to mention Craig is the co-host of the DLLS Stars podcast. So talk to us, Craig. Where are you at? Are you panicking? Are you actually calm? What did you think of the non-over-the-glass penalty? I mean, there's a bunch of different things you could kind of start this series.
Can I
off
bring
with
up
the
a little
Stars
nugget first about that outdoor game? That was the one where Corey Perry got kicked out in the first period and had to
Best
do that
walk of shame ever.
The worst walk of shame going. Do you remember that, Lud?
Hey, that was the walk of shame. Remember how long it took him to get out of there? He's walking halfway across the football field. So yeah, I'm sure he would have liked a little shorter route to get out of there. So yeah, it was a good event. You guys did a great job. I remember I had to bring up though the pink Whitney. I was like, well, what the hell's going on here? Like, isn't this what your big thing is? And yeah, exactly. You guys had nothing out there, nothing. So. And I had actually come from at 7 a.m. or about 7:30, we started doing a little thing with Ed Belfour. And so for his new product, and he had Belfour Spirits. So it was one of those kind of days. It was a long morning, long afternoon, but had a great time with you guys.
Yeah, it was great.
So
what
Craig,
do you want to know?
I want to know something. I actually just thought of this. As a defenseman who played hard, was physical, maybe dirty at times, what did you think of the Darnell Nurse slash? Are you like, Whit, you're an idiot? That is not something that happens commonly. He should have gotten a major and maybe suspended. Or are you on the side of like just a horrible break and just caught him in the perfect spot, but not a major?
It's part of the game. We have now on our show on DLS there, we're doing these watch along parties, right, for all the away games. So, and Brent Severn comes on with us. So we just kind of sit there and talk the whole game through and things like that. Anyway, when it was brought up again, Sevy and I just looked at each other like, that's part of the game. That's just what you do in front of the net. And I looked at Nurse, and nobody really talks about it. And it wasn't bad, but Rupe kind of gave him a little cross check in the back right before that. And so Nurse knows where he is. He doesn't even look back. I mean, it's kind of an instinct thing. You know what side of the body he's on. You kind of have a general idea where his feet are. And, you're trying to make it uncomfortable for people there. So, I don't think we felt that it was, one of those two-handers. I definitely don't think it was a major. I understand, the whole walking boot and leaving the game. And I get that. That's part of posturing for a fact, that kind of stuff. So, and if you do it enough, that particular play, you kind of know where you're aiming for. And, there's that certain part of the foot that is a little more exposed. And even in today's game, I always thought all these guys are wearing those shot blockers, or have something in their tongues of their skates or something. So, again, no, I didn't think it was. I do agree, though. And I'll tell you what, the first thing I said when the show was over, and I didn't say it on the show then, I did say it the other day, but I kind of expected him to be walking out of there with a boot on. Just walking out of there with a boot on. Isn't that what you do? And, if it was the other way around, it would probably happen too. But I agree with how Pete tried to go about it. You're trying to set a tone for the next game and things like that. And there is a lot of talk here, obviously with the fans about that, but the majority of the talk, and rightly so, is where's the response? Is there going to be a response? And you guys all know, I mean, that's game 2. So you're not going to go out and put yourself in trouble early on in a hockey game in game 3. If there's a if there's the right place and time, which possibly, it could have been after that fourth goal, there's maybe 5 minutes to go in a game. But then on the other side of the coin, Jim Nill and Pete and those guys that have put this team together and have run it so well for the last few years, it's not really their identity, to be that kind of a team. If it's not Jamie Benn doing things like that or sticking up for, his teammates, there's not really a ton of guys that jump into that mode.
I was just going to ask about Jamie Benn because you mentioned like who could respond in that regard. I feel like he's maybe been a little bit quiet this series so far. Yeah. Like, I feel like he's the type of guy who needs to impose his will and strike a little bit of fear in Edmonton's eyes, where I don't know if that's realistic. I think that I really like the way that Edmonton's built. They got a few guys like Kane who can handle that type of business, but among him and who others needs to step up for the Dallas Stars in order to get back in this series? Because I feel like they got a few guys missing also.
Yeah, I think that you have to look at, again, what I would say is it has to be for this particular group. I think it's got to be a team toughness kind of thing, but I do look at the guys on the back end. Leon Bichel, he obviously, big guy, and we see, everybody knows about how game one unfolded with Perry and all that kind of stuff. You talk about Perry. Again, I get it. But I look at, the other guys that are on the back end, whether it's Labushkin's in there, CC, who's ever in there that particular night. I think they can be a little bit more physical, but again, it's not in there. It's not the identity of that team in front of the net, which is one of the things I probably chirped about the most, making it a little bit more uncomfortable for players to, and you guys want to come into the front of the net a lot of times, especially on the better players, you make it difficult on them and they kind of shy away a little bit. And so, that's goes back to our day and doing that. But I'd be honest with you, I miss the times where Ed Belfour, Eddie would tee off on a few guys there too, right? Oh, so, yeah. But again, that's not who they are. And I think that, but back to Pete, I agree with how Pete's a lawyer, right? I mean, he knows how to speak and he puts it out there pretty good, and he tap dances around some things the way that you should in the comments. I think he's been a little testy the last couple of days, testier than I've seen him in some of the interviews. But to be able to use that reference, that if it was McDavid and all that kind of stuff, maybe there would be a little bit more hype about it. I'm not sure. But again, I think you play through things. Here's what I said yesterday. In my opinion, and I saw some video last night of Hintz skating. He looked really good with one of the coaches, I believe, and he looked really good. But regardless of where he's at, is he 60%? Is he 70%? We all know there's ways that you can get into the game and you can make it through that game. You know what I'm saying?
Bud Kilmer?
I think,
shut your mouth if you knew it was good for you.
Yeah. I think he has to play tonight. And the reason I say that is, again, I guess we're going back to old school. He makes the difference when he's out there with his speed. He can back people off. He opens up a little bit more room for Granlund and Mikko and things like that. But it just seems to me like this is such a pivotal game in this series that, if he can get in there, and let's say Roop gets in there, he plays well, they have the outcome, that's great. And if he doesn't play, for some reason it's so sore, again, they don't have that break now. You don't have that couple extra days. Maybe it's going to be sore. But I think the alternative is not that they can't win without him, but if they go down 3-1 because you miss that part of that game, I think the swap out, as long as he's cool with the thing and would be willing to get in there and play, being down 3-1 versus 2-2 and not having him in game 5 is the way I look at it.
Well, I mean, you played when I don't even think they had shot blockers. Did you ever break a foot? And what would be your response? Just shoot the thing up, put me in, coach, type of thing?
Biz, I go back, and I've been asked that obviously lots of times. And I remember I go back to Boston, and we were playing in the Garden, and it was before a playoff game. And I was on the table next to Gainey, and we were both getting shot up. And at that time, and Bo looked, and I was young, I was probably my third, fourth year, whatever it was. And he just kind of looked over at me. And Bob, if you've ever had a chance to talk to him, he talks very slow and very deliberate. And he looked over at me and he goes, "Luds, you know why we do this, right?" And I learned after the first couple of years is I think more before I answer his questions, because he has these ways of going. He'll give you an answer. He looks at you. He looks back again. He looks up at the ceiling. He looks at you. He hasn't said a damn thing yet. And then he'll go, no. And so you're like, oh, the wrong answer. But really what it was is he goes, here's the reason why we do this. He goes, and I said, because we want to play. I mean, we want to be part of the game, and you want playoffs and all this other kind of stuff. He goes, yeah. He goes, but you know what? If you don't play tonight, there's another guy waiting for you. And, there's a younger guy there that's making less money. He goes, that's why we do this. And that stuck with me for a long time. So you play through those things. But Biz, to go to your question about the spot, back to Gainey, he had said to me probably, I think it could have been the year we won the cup, or maybe a year before that. He looked at me one day and he goes, you know what you ought to do? You ought to come up with a shot blocker. I'm like, what? And he goes, you ought to make something for your skates, for a tongue. Like, I think it'd be a good idea. You're getting hit in the feet and all this stuff. And, we would take that plaster Paris stuff and you kind of mold it around your foot and try to get your skate in there. And now looking back a couple of years ago, I thought of it again and said, you know what? I wouldn't probably have to be doing half the things I'm doing if I'd have come up with some idea about them. Guys are all wearing them shot blockers and things like that, right? Yeah. So
well, guys are actually
or molding the shin pads. I mean, that's what you're famous for. We have a lot of young listeners with.
Okay, let's get this straight right now. Okay, like it went from parking my car on them and flattening them out and all these things. I got those shin pads when I got to the University of North Dakota. I walked on my freshman year, made the team, and I got used equipment. My shoulder pads, my shin pads. Anyway, over the course of a few years, they started to crack, and I probably wore 3-4 pair of skates in my entire career. I hate new stuff. I cannot stand it. I despise it. And so our trainer in Dallas, and they kept cracking. One day I was taking my skates off and I took it off and my socks were full of blood. And I thought, well, what the hell? I don't remember getting hit with a shot. And anyway, when I took my shin pad off, there was a piece of that plastic that was stuck in my shin. So I must have got hit by a puck, stuck in it. I went to the trainer and I said, Smitty, we got to fix these. And he goes, Luds, I got shelves of new shin pads. I said, it ain't happening. Let's fix it. So what he did is he took that stuff, that plaster Paris stuff, and you heat it up and you put it over your wrist and things like that, and to protect you a little bit. Well, what happens, and he put rivets on it. So we riveted it on over that crack. So at least if I got hit again, I probably wouldn't have that stuff sticking in my shin pad. But what happens is when that stuff cools, it just starts to straighten out and expands. And so that's how they actually became so wide. I must have had rolls of tape on there trying to pull them in. I couldn't get them in, because let me tell you, there were times when I was skating up the ice and I'd have to have guys tell me, there you go.
Dude, that's fucking insane.
That's photo.
How did you cross over?
That has to be photoshopped.
I know it's awful. It's not Photoshop. Well, they're not as bad as that looks, to be honest with you.
That looks
you
so
have
bad.
two refrigerators on your legs. You're wearing a refrigerator.
So
they're wider than the pants.
With you could skate. Biz, you couldn't skate. Neither can I. Right? So you know how hard it is for us to skate just in general. So what would happen is those pads on the inside would click, and there'd be times I'd come back and a lot of times it was Zuby's, like Zuby. He'd say, look at your shin pad. One of them would be facing straight ahead because it just, the tape came off and I didn't even realize it. So it was a bit of a pain, but I'll tell you what, the older you get and the slower you get, the less distance you have to travel to get into a shot lane with those kind of things, because you're kind of already in a lane. So, and be honest with you, it was nice because, I was a guy that played and I had to play against people. I had to learn their tendencies. I always felt that if I knew where you want to go first and I get there first, you have to go to plan B. So I got a bit of an advantage. So I knew the shooters versus the danglers, and I knew the guys that wanted to shoot between your leg. There's something about it that bothered them too. And even if I didn't get it, they were thinking about it. And so it kind of helped me in that way too. And I just believe I try to have our players that are U18 team talk about it all the time. Like, you guys have to learn what players do. Like, you may be that guy that likes to come across the offensive blue line and, curl up and all that. Fedorov, there was one time with Fedorov, and I had Rick Wilson as our coach for a long time. I had him in college, and I was not that defenseman that can hold the blue line that well, obviously. Fedorov was coming down, and it was just on the other side of center ice. It was right in front of the bench in Detroit. And I hear Wills yell to me, "Let's stand him up." And at the same time, I looked at him and I was skating backwards and I said, yeah, right. And I kept on going. I backed up and Fedorov got to the top of the circle and I didn't give him anything. So he curls to the wall. Our third man picks him up. I come back to the bench and I said, Wills, did you seriously want me to stand up on Fedorov? He goes, yeah, I have no idea what I was thinking. So it's just that was kind of part of what I had to do. And those shin pads and that kind of stuff, those little details of that, I think help you survive in the game for a long time.
As a guy, a two-time Stanley Cup champion, right? And I think it was 13 years apart. You won it in Montreal and Dallas. You had Patrick Roy, you had Eddie Belfour. When you watch Dallas now, do you think Ottinger's a guy who can end up being a Stanley Cup champ? I mean, he's had some incredible runs. He's very good usually after a loss in the playoffs. But I think in the Western Conference Final, he might be 5-10 now in his career, a pretty bad record. Like, do you believe that he is a guy that could lead a team to a Stanley Cup, though, watching him all year?
Yeah, and, and the reason is, coming down the stretch this year, the last 7-8 games of the regular season, Dallas wasn't good. And I'm a big believer of you got to be playing some of your best hockey heading into the playoffs. And when Jake wasn't good either. He wasn't Jake. So there's a different standard there. I think when we watch Ottinger play now, we know what he's capable of. And when he's on, he's on. There's no doubt in my mind he's one of the top 3 or 4 goaltenders in the league. But I'm like, and again, we were groomed to be in teams that you're playing your best hockey at that time of the year. And I'm like, this isn't like a light switch. You don't just turn it on at the start of the playoffs. Well, when the playoffs started against Colorado, and I picked Colorado to win because of those reasons, and Jake was unbelievable. And he was able to just turn the switch. And so here after the Winnipeg series, I look at it and I go, this team has to be better. Like they have to be better 5-on-5 because right now they've gotten through Colorado, who obviously made a lot of changes, maybe too many changes. But anyway, they made a lot of changes. They still have superstar players. Obviously, Winnipeg, best team in the league. I just think that it's Rantanen and it's Otter. That's what got them, in my opinion. Of course, there's other things that are in there a little bit, timing of power plays and things like that. But because of those 2 guys, that's what got them, to me, the majority of it through 2 rounds. And so to answer your question, long-winded, Jake Ottinger, yes, he can be that guy. And now what you see from Jake, you see this calmness, very different than the other 2 goalies that you brought up. Them 2 guys can be wingnuts, especially Eddie. But Jake, it doesn't seem like anything rattles him, whether it's a poor goal that he thinks is a bad goal, the chaos that goes around him at times. I could see this year there were times that he was getting frustrated with some of the things that were going on in front of him, coverage-wise. But he, you can see it. You can see how a puck goes in and they kind of look at that defenseman for a little bit too long. You're kind of sending a message to whoever, and I think that's just natural. So, but yeah, he's been so good. And a lot of times he make things look easy, and along with some of the crazy saves that he's made.
Craig, you mentioned how it's mostly been Otter and Mikko, and you look at Florida and you look at Edmonton, they're getting contributions from up and down their lineup. Does that worry you guys in Dallas at all? And especially Robinson, I look at him; he doesn't look like he has the last 2-3 years. Like, is there something going on with him that? I mean, obviously everybody's banged up right now, but is there any worry that you guys aren't getting the depth scoring that these other teams are?
When you mention Florida, for sure, they're a different kind of animal, right? I look at the makeup of their team, the bite that we talk about bite and some of the players that they have, and I think that's what makes Edmonton a little bit different because of the Podkolzin or whatever the hell his name is, and and Perry and Kane and and you mentioned Hyman before, and I knew like where he generally was in the regular season, he was somewhere around a hit per game in the regular season. So he has just been he's been a different player. What it is, it's a team that said we need a little bit more of this. They made a couple adjustments, added a couple players, brought that kind of element into the game, but they've bought into that part of the game. When you've got Zach Hyman being that guy, And McDavid plays that way now too. I mean, I don't think people give McDavid enough for credit for sticking his nose in there at times. So, but I think it all runs through obviously him and 29 there. But you just watch the way those two go about their business during games, and there's a different level to their attitude and the way that there was the goal that was scored, and Biz, you guys sit there and watch it all. In that last game, I believe there was a power play. Edmonton had a power play, and I think it was in the second period. It was right. It had just ended, and then McDavid had scored a goal. But at the end of it, everything stayed on the right-hand side of the ice. So McDavid basically never got to touch the puck, and the puck got cleared a couple different times. And right at the end, there was about 30 seconds left, and you could see it on the camera on TV. He kind of waved his hand like that, like I never touched the puck. I never got it. Well, the next time he touched the puck, down he goes, and all that kind of stuff. So it just seems like there's another level coming off of the way that it ended last year for those two guys in particular, and McDavid especially.
Yeah, they are on a mission. I don't think this series is over by a long shot. I do want to bring up the fact that a lot of Oilers fans have said, enough discussion about Hintz being injured and the nurse slash because Petrovic headshotted Connor Brown and now he's out and he's been incredible. I'll stick to giving my real opinion. I thought that was a great hit. Awful, circumstance what ends up happening. But I think Petrovic laid a perfect body check. So I'm not on the side of Oilers fans saying that's a headshot. I thought it was a very physical play that had a brutal outcome, similar to the Hintz one. Maybe obviously that was clean because it was a hit as opposed to a slash. So I do think that the bitching from the Oilers fans on the Brown one, I just think that's just a brutal timed hit for Connor Brown to take. The other thing is that when they went down, when the Oilers were up 2-1 in the second period and Dallas was all over them. My buddy I was watching said, this is when you need McDavid to just do something McJesus style. And that's exactly what happened. And it's under a minute to go in the period. And I think Rantanen kind of overplayed it. Rantanen's on the D side and ends up getting in front of McDavid thinking he might get the puck on the turnover and go down. Nope. It gets by him and McDavid buries that. So he did exactly what my friend said. That's the difference in Leon and McDavid is you have a well-rounded team, but then you have these two guys at any moment that can just pop off. And it kind of leads to my question for you. The two cups you've won, you've seen Zubov in the playoffs, Madonna, you've battled against Sakic, Forsberg, all these legends. Have you ever seen maybe two guys this good when the playoffs come around? I mean, I'm sure you have, but this is kind of a different level with Gretzky and Lemieux now.
It is a different animal. And again, like I said, I think they're committed to fixing what happened that didn't happen in their favor last year. But yeah, and again, when you talk about those kind of guys, especially 97, it's by committee. You can't, and that particular play that you're talking about, Dallas. Everybody knows I complain sometimes about, well, probably quite a bit about the man-on-man stuff in the zone, and I think what you're seeing from Edmonton is the way that you get around that is they do a lot of interchanging. They have these little moving picks, and one, the puck carrier is going north and then somebody's coming south, and you either slide in between the player that's trying to cover the puck carrier or you get on the outside. So you have to have your head on a swivel. And I think that play that you're talking about with Rantanen there, like he follows the puck. He chases the puck. That's what happens. And so now all of a sudden there's that separation. And because other guys away from the puck are on their guys, there's more space because they're looking at where they're going. I mean, I looked at one of the goals in it was probably the last game, a power play goal. And I think that's the one that got tipped, maybe RNH or somebody. But it was mainly because Wyatt Johnston left him. Like he was there and then he just kind of takes off and he moves up a little high and it opens up that space. That's how perfect you have to be when you play that kind of system. But yeah, with the way that those two guys are playing, and you have to do, you're really not going to contain them. They're going to get their chances, which goes back to Jake Ottinger, and also for me goes back to, then we've got to make sure that we're in the areas of ice where they're shooting from less higher quality opportunities. So they've got to be outside the tops of the circles if they can. McDavid made a great shot. He used, I think it was Essa for a screen on that goal. And again, that's McDavid does McDavid things, right? That happens. But I just think that anytime for McDavid, if you can get him with his speed and you take away the middle of the ice enough, especially on entries and rushes, if you can get him to go behind the net, it's better off than all the other alternatives, because generally that means that if he's going behind the net, now you're finally getting all 5 of your guys back into the defensive zone, and then get down below the tops of the circles and try to keep things on the perimeter as much as possible, which is where, when that happens, now there should be a few chops on the ankles or on the wrists that you can get away with and make it a little bit more, uncomfortable for people to want to hang around the front of the net and let Jake see those shot lanes a little bit better.
One other guy I was going to ask you about, Wyatt Johnston, brutal plus minus. Whit mentioned it before you hopped on, but it feels like that first year he had such an impact come playoff time, and there's been a significant drop off when the games have gotten more difficult. Like, what are you seeing? Like, what more can he improve on in order to make a difference in these games, especially in the conference final? I mean, Jan's already asked you about Robertson. Maybe you could add him in it too. Like, what do these guys need to do in order to make an impact, maybe even outside of scoring? Because to me, Robertson is non-existent right now, and I know he came off injury, but these are 2 guys they need to make impacts, but specifically Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah, and I'll start with Robo. I think that Robo, he has to score goals. I mean, that's what makes him go. And I used to say this about Tyler a lot, Seguin, and I felt that when Tyler had a tough stretch, which he hasn't had many, when goals weren't going in, especially on the power play, I think sometimes like they get a little bit further away from the net to get their shots off and stuff like that. And I think it should be the opposite. I think you got to go to the front of the net, because it doesn't matter how the puck goes in for those guys. They just need it to go in. And I think so. And to say that for Robo, and you're 100% right. Like, but this is kind of goes on with Robo sometimes during the playoffs. I think he gets freaky. I think he gets that reputation sometimes. Oh, it's playoff time. What's going to happen with Jason? But I will say that, he's had a couple injuries. He had one obviously at the end of the regular season. But the skating part of it is there. So there's no excuse, in my opinion, right there. But I think what Robo has done, there was a goal in game 1, I think, that Granlund scored on the power play. Robo was the guy that was in front of the net with the screen. So that's just a little thing. And then even the goal, and he did get credit for that goal the other night, which he didn't even know about. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a shot on the bench after the goal was scored. Robo came to the bench, and they got him, and he was all pissed off. And I think it was almost like, I got that puck, but they didn't credit it to him. So I was like, oh, is he mad? But then I saw in the interview after, they told him that, that was your goal. And it's like, oh, I got that goal. I didn't know I got that goal. All of a sudden there seemed like, oh, I got that goal. So maybe that's what it takes for Robo, is to get that, that goal to go in. As far as Wyatt goes, I think they're trying to use him a little bit against using him for a matchup, because Wyatt can skate with, I'm not going to say anybody, he can't skate with McDavid, but I think that they trust Wyatt enough that he can match up against whether it's Draisaitl or McDavid, be on the ice and those kind of things at the same time, because of his skating ability and his hockey sense and things like that. And I just wonder sometimes, because you might have that added responsibility, you get a little too dialed into that responsibility, and you just have to go and do your kind of things, because he is such a great, and he's such a good player in the playoffs. I mean, he scores goals in the playoffs. He scores big goals. So I don't know if he's getting a little too, I got to be, because right now you might as well forget about your plus minus. You're probably not coming out on the plus side, even if you're the whole thing. So you might as well forget about that part and start putting pucks in the net. And because again, we've seen that if they can get 2 or 3 goals, and get them early, get a goal early on Skinner, there's a good chance that you might be able to get to that guy. So it's almost like you can't sit back and not be worried about getting scored against. Play your game. That's the kind of team this is. It's been a team that gets on its front foot, and they make the passes, they make the pretty plays, which playoff time, I'm not a big fan of that. You got to just direct more pucks to the net. And when more pucks are getting directed to the net, the other 2 forwards or whoever it may, the other 4 players know, hey, we're putting pucks to the net. So they don't hang on the perimeter as much. They kind of go, well, it's coming to the net. So now all of a sudden I might as well go to the net, because that's what we're doing. We're shooting the net. So I just think a little bit more traffic and make it a little bit more difficult on Skinner. You saw in game 1. I mean, there were a couple of times he was scrambling because there was people in his kitchen. And I think that bothers every goalie. So I just think they need to add a little bit more of that.
Well, Skinner gets a shutout, or maybe gives up 1 or gives up like 6. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get to him early, the whole thing could change. But Biz, do you have anything else for
Yeah,
Lauder?
I mean, I figured we'd have to ask about Heiskanen and the fact that he came back from injury. What have you seen so far? Does he still look like he's nursing it a little bit? Because I feel like for him, there's still like another gear there, maybe that we're not seeing, and hopefully we see it soon if they have any chance of coming back in this series.
Yeah, because I don't know if Miro's going to be 100%, but even until next year, he had a significant thing happen with him. But I think game one, he came back and there was a particular play. He was backing up and I don't remember who it was. And he had to cross over and it didn't turn out well. But again, he had an injury and he's been out for 3 months. So I expect that kind of thing. And we expect special things from him. I mean, he's such a great skater, but he's getting better every game. I still think that having to turn sometimes, he doesn't have the same quickness. Been a couple times where guys will get the middle of the ice or get the edge on him a little bit, and where he would normally pivot and shut it down right away. That's not there. I think he probably has to learn or at least try to adapt to coming off an injury, the brace, the whole 9 yards of maybe I have to give them a little bit more space. I'm usually really good at holding on like that. There was a play last year in the playoffs against McDavid. There was a turnover in the neutral zone, and I have no idea. And McDavid got it, and McDavid actually was headed towards Dallas's zone. Miro was heading up towards the Edmonton zone, and there was a turnover. McDavid was gone, and Miro took 2 strides, and he had the gap right there at the blue line. And I was like, I've never seen anybody be able to do that. So that's the ability that he has when he's healthy. So I think he's still trying to get through some of that. So sometimes you might have to give a little more space than you used to buy an extra second for yourself. Where he's coming around, Miro is the guy for me that the one of the biggest bonuses offensively for him is the way he transports the puck out of his own zone, because he doesn't, like with Thomas Harley, who's obviously taking it to another level this year. Harley is that pass. He makes a long pass. He makes a good pass generally out of the zone. Miro picks it up and he skates. And for me, what happens is when Miro breaks down that first forecheck, however you have it set up, now he gets past the first guy. And as he starts to get into the blue line area, start getting in the neutral zone, their coverage has to change a little bit because now somebody has to come to Miro because he's still skating through the middle of the ice. And Miro has the ability to see if he's coming from his left or his right. And he knows if he's coming from his left, he makes that pass up that side. And now you can create a 3-on-2. So Miro breaks things down with his skating ability, and that's what they need to get some more transition and create some more offense, and outnumbered rushes heading into the offensive zone.
Fucking right, Slud. You're on the ball, man. You know it all, man.
The man knows his team.
Well, hopefully, maybe they should listen to me then.
You should be behind the bench with DeBoer, another coach, man. Add it to the staff.
Wear your shin pads on the bench. Nobody else could fit there. You'd be the only coach standing there. But thank you so much,
you guys
Craig.
Hey, listen, let me tell you one little thing about that. I got a letter. Oh, man, this is 20 years ago. I got a letter from the Hall of Fame about those shin pads. And I just kind of tossed it. I just thought, I wonder who's doing this. Because I've gotten some of them things. Then I got another one. Tossed it. Then I got a phone call. And it was somebody from the Hall of Fame. Mr. Ludwig, I don't know. We sent you some letters. We'd really like to have the shin pad, all this kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, right. Like, who is this? No, we're serious. So I got one more call. I said, no, man. I said, my kids want them, which, they wanted to wear them for God's sakes.
We wanted to play beer pong on them.
Yeah. And you know what? They're still I would put duct tape on them, the color of the team that we played. There's still duct tape on them from that particular team. They're all moldy on the inside. Anyway, I got one last call. And I said, I'll tell you what, you can have the shin pads as long as you take me. I've never got a call back. I've never got a letter. Everything stopped. So anyway, what was the question? I got all sidetracked.
No, you should be getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. 2 Stanley Cups, veteran shot blocker, and willing to get shot up Bud Kilmer style before games. You're the ultimate teammate, and I think they could throw you in the lineup and you could be a factor right now, Lud.
I'd be a pylon, Biz. That's what I'd be.
Well, you never skated that well. So that changes.
You have to play with deficiencies. You got to know who you are and what you're good at.
That's awesome.
Over 1,200 games, over 170 playoff games, 2 cups. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Great catching up with you, and we'll see what happens tonight, Craig. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Love listening to you.
You're a legend. Thanks so much, Lud.
Guys, before we get to Tripp Tracy, and who knows, Tripp Tracy, he needed that win. He couldn't come on here after the sweep, so can't wait to chat with him, but we do have to talk about Body Armor. This episode is brought to you by the Body Armor sports drink. Body Armor has great tasting flavors like this one right here, strawberry banana. They got orange mango, no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. I'll tell you, long Memorial Day weekend, this is the perfect drink to just get you back feeling good, get you hydrated, also tasting great and feeling better. It's Body Armor in a bold new look with the same great taste. Get your Body Armor today at Walmart or a local grocery store near you. Body Armor, choose better. And then quickly, Biz, we need to talk about No Bull before Tripp comes on. Because No Bull is the footwear brand for those wanting to be better physically, mentally, and emotionally. The no bullshit approach. All you do is rock these shoes now, Biz.
Oh, unbelievable gear. They got gear as well. They got the shoes. I mean, these ones are the mesh ones, so they breathe easy. You don't even have to wear socks with these bad boys. You can wear them to hike. And tons of new models coming out. Tom Brady's brand, so you know he's doing an unreal job with whatever he's putting out. So you can get an incredible discount, try them out, and very reasonably priced as well for the quality that you get. So if you're looking for a new training shoe, make sure to check them out. And as I mentioned, plenty of amazing styles online. So I'll hand it back over to you, Whit.
Well, I've been doing my treadmill walks in the new No Bulls they sent me. They sent me 3 different pairs, and they're phenomenal. Comfortable, lightweight, like you said, and exclusively for our listeners, No Bull's offering 30% off your order. Visit nobullproject.com/chiclets for 30% off your entire order. That's nobullproject.com/chiclets for 30% off. Let's right now bring in a man who's finally, after all the Eastern Conference defeats, he's finally happy. He's finally feeling good about his team. They're going back home. They've been an incredible home team for a long time. Can they get a dub and force Game 6 back in Florida? We have Hurricanes analyst, does a great job. Tripp Tracy, what's going on?
What's up, boys? Great to be with you. I have to tell you, I'm running on fumes. We got back pretty late in the morning after a win last night, but what a hot stove with Craig Ludwig. And it made me reminisce because years ago at the Fox meetings on the ocean in California, I had a session with Daryl Ray, the brilliant analyst. He was doing play-by-play at the time, and Craig was his color analyst. And, as a goaltender with dreams, did I ever love Craig Ludwig? And we just hot stoved. He's got the tolerance of a rhinoceros, but that was tremendous stuff. And I really enjoyed that, sipping my coffee, and a great memory of that session on the Pacific Ocean with Craig.
Yeah, great guy right there. And I'm interested to see or hear your thoughts after last night, because I think everyone watching the game was like, this is the Hurricanes team that we thought we'd see from the beginning of this series. We talked about the sweep 2 years ago and how close those games were. And I said, no chance it's a sweep this year. I think the games are going to be just as close. Carolina looks very special this season. And then kind of disaster struck, right? At home, the first 2 games, then Game 3, blowouts. What were you thinking kind of going into not only the series, but Game 3 back on the road after a disappointment at home? So what are you thinking right now? And what was your thought after games 1 and 2 of what is happening out there?
Well, I mean, Whit, to go back to entering the series, I mean, I've had the privilege of being here for 26 years, and I have plenty of character defects, but I do have an elephant-like memory. And, I can remember their last win in the conference final before last night, spending some quality time with Mark Recchi, who was a Hurricane at the time, after they beat Buffalo in Game 7. So
can't hear him. Can't hear you right now.
We lost you, Tripp. I don't know if you're getting a phone call that's coming in that might be blocking the sound.
Possibly. Still muted.
Why don't you do Biz voice on him?
I was just thinking that.
Hey, why don't you do the Biz voice on Tripp?
Because I would never do the Biz voice to anyone else but you. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to get him back, because he has been involved with the Hurricanes for so long. He knows the team. Until we get him back, I guess we can discuss
Well, I think the last time they won an Eastern Conference final game, Rod the Bod had the game winner. That just tells you how long ago it was since they'd won a game in the Eastern Conference final. So I don't know, boys. The issue for me after game 3 was the lack of fight and the lack of emotional investment from some of the guys in their lineup. And I know that Svechnikov ended up bumping. Oh, we got him back here. You good, Tripp?
Boys, I
There you go.
apologize. Can you hear me?
No worries.
We got you now.
We got you. We got you. You're back. You're back.
That was like games 1 through 3 for you guys. Everything was falling apart, but we got you back. We're back on the rails.
It's a running joke that, you'd never think that I graduated from Harvard. I'm a tech dinosaur. And so even getting on this Zoom with you guys is a real challenge. So hopefully now it sticks. But going back to, the privilege of being here for so long, I remember spending time with Mark Recchi after that Game 7 conference final win. And, it's been tough sledding to the ends of the earth. So going into this series, and especially Florida coming off of their Game 7 win in Toronto, I thought that it was of paramount importance that Carolina get in front of the series and that streak. And at the very least, go to Florida 1-1, ideally 2-0. It didn't happen. But I've always enjoyed through all the groups here, guys, that players know that I have a job to do, but I'm in the trenches with them. And, part of that is these last couple of days, you can't lose your belief. So especially with my morning coffee, I have to map out, if Carolina gets back in the series, what it's going to look like. And, I love the start last night in particular because the moment you lose your belief, you're cooked. And I knew they needed to play not just their hardest, but their smartest game of the series in the 4th game, because that's what frustrated me more than anything, guys, that they weren't playing to their identity. I know Florida's a different opponent than Washington was or New Jersey was, but if you're going to go down playing to your identity, and that identity just simply cannot involve the puck management mistakes that they were making in the first 3 games, and they rectified that very impressively last night.
When you were muted, Biz talked about the kind of lack of fight and pushback after Game 3. My thought after the first game was I understood what they were doing, but I didn't agree with it seemed like they were trying to play Florida's game a little bit. Gostisbehere shot the puck at Marchand, right? Things that is only going to piss off Florida even more. It's almost like let the sleeping giants sleep a little bit and just try to outskate them and outshoot them the way Carolina's won so many games. But they went into it and almost tried to bully them. Then it turned around where you have Tkachuk cross-checking Aho for payback on the hit against Reinhart. You have Gostisbehere where Marchand goes at him. He keeps his gloves on. Like, did you see them kind of not playing their game, as you just mentioned, and trying to rough up Florida when that isn't their identity? And were you as confused as that as I was?
And Tripp, I was actually like, I like the fact that Svech bumped Bob. Like, to me, it was like, okay, all right. Like, they got fucking swept 2 years ago. He's coming in with a little bit more jam, especially as one of their power forwards where they're clearly outsized and outmatched in that department. But it told me that he was emotionally invested early. I guess the problem was there wasn't much of a follow-up, especially from some of the other guys as well.
Biz, I did not mind that bump, from Svechnikov. And, you remember with his knee injury, he wasn't available in that conference final 2 years ago. So, and that was a huge loss. Max Pacioretty had torn his Achilles for the second time too. So you were up against it. But I agree with Whit wholeheartedly. Even in the first period of Game 1 where Carolina was pretty good, I thought they were trying to prove to the hockey world that they can be just as physical and nasty as the Florida Panthers. I thought Gostisbehere was as dangerous of a player as they had in that game. I'd love to see him stay covert like a Navy SEAL, and this might not go over well with, my, wonderful passion with our wonderful, huge Caniac fans. But, I was going back and forth with Tom Wilson this morning because I love Tom Wilson. I still think he sets the bar when it comes to scary guys that can play the game at a high level. And that's what Carolina did so well against Washington. I know that Washington is not Florida, but number one, they only chased the game really once in Game 2. And they played whistle to whistle against, I thought Tommy Wilson had a really good series. So the guy that sets the bar for me really could never be a factor. And they lost that identity of who they are early in the series. It was like they were trying to prove that they've taken these big time steps. And I liked game 3 a lot better. I liked where they were at early in the third period. They had that early kill. Really unfortunate, and a big time turnover from Taylor Hall. And all of a sudden Florida lowers the boom. And last night from the opening face-off, right, the first win is usually the hardest, and it didn't come easily, but I love the way that they played to their identity, and now they're going to have to be even more desperate tomorrow night at home, and they can't come off of that at all.
And going away from Freddie for game 3 and then going back to him, obviously they get blown out in that game, and you got to go back to him. Do you think that was part of their plan? Like, Freddie can reset. He's been amazing for you guys all playoffs. And was it kind of one of those things you think Rod was like, hey, listen, if we sit him and we somehow get a win or even a loss, like if he can come back in and he can be our guy that we know he can be?
Jens, because I'm not a guy that, has a gut instinct decision. And then if it doesn't work out that, I'm a revisionist. And I felt that it was the right time to go to Kochetkov. Freddie going back to that previous Eastern Conference final against Florida, there was a sweep. Ronta played game 2, but, he hadn't been able to come up with a win. I didn't fault him at all. He was the least of their problems in the first 2 games, but you didn't get those saves early in particular that you needed. Kochetkov had always risen to the occasion against Russian goaltenders. His numbers had been really good against Bobrovsky. I loved him in the first 2 periods. Didn't like the Hall turnover and didn't like how Ansi got with his stick as he was moving from right to left on Boquist. But I agreed with that decision, however it was going to play out. That's the way I felt. So I'm not going to change my opinion because it didn't work out. Where I give Rod a lot of credit, because I've always thought that Freddie is the kind of guy that when he's on a roll, how long can he build upon that role? In terms of a me against the world rebound guy, I don't know that. Craig was talking about, Ottinger needing a big performance tonight in Edmonton. He's a great rebound guy. That's never, for me, been Freddie's strongest asset. So for me, it was a true decision for Rod going into game 4 last night. But Freddie's the guy that got you there, and he was stellar. What I love most about Freddie Anderson last night, it's a real good barometer for me. Is he attacking with his hands? And right from that early save on Bennett, and throughout the hockey game, there was a tip from Barkey in the third period where he established a high glove. I love when goalies do that, even big goaltenders, because you can go from high to low. You can't go from low to high. But his hands really jumped off the page for me more than anything else in the shutout last night.
I wanted to talk about, I didn't think the loss to Chatfield was going to be as significant as it was. It really feels like they were missing him in the first few games. They decided to go with Scott Morrow. I can understand Rod's decision given like the systems and the man-on-man D zone and how complicated it could be for a guy like Nikishin coming from overseas and adapting to that. But I felt that he belonged in the series from the beginning, just given his shot size, his offensive upside, and the fact that of how big Florida is and really being able to contain them to the outside amongst everything else that he brings. How have you felt that he's entered the series, and what do you make of that decision early on? Which, I think we could all, outside of Orlov in game 3, I think that was probably the worst defensive performance we've seen probably in playoffs from Morrow, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, it's no secret here in Carolina. I have a job to do, but, Rod, I walked his mom down the aisle at his wedding. He's my closest friend in the organization. 95% of the time, Biz, we see the same game. I liked Alexander Nikishin in Washington. He had a tough first shift. He got bailed out on a successful coach's challenge on that offside play that would have been a glaring, costly turnover. But for a guy playing on a North American ice sheet, the challenge of the Russian language, I liked him. So I would have stuck with him. For me, truthfully, it would have been a no-brainer. That's no disregard to Scott Morrow. I'm sure Rod, prioritized Morrow's comfort with the system, having guys on their natural side. But I want to tell you a quick story about Nikishin, his first practice here. Guy doesn't speak a lick of the language, and I'm watching him first practice. He's flown all over, zigzagged around the world to get here. And he is tapping the veteran guys, you know, that are English speakers throughout practice. Just his charisma told me right away, this is why this guy was the captain of SCA in St. Petersburg at such a young age. Aside from the fact he's a beast, aside from the fact he's got a big shot, and I think he's showing signs of being mean, which Carolina desperately needs already. But even in that first game, I saw a guy that simply is not going to dip his toe in the water. He's going to go for it and has that thing called self-belief. So, you know, I started talking to Nikishin and communicating with him last summer, you know, before his last year in SCA. So I've been bullish on him for a long time. And was he ever great in games 3 and 4?
Yeah, that primary was nice on the backhand, right up to stanky leg.
And Stankoven, I mean, what a shot. I think he's, if not the best, right up there for the top Hurricanes player throughout the playoffs. So, you know, you talk about Carolina went for it with Rantanen. It was disappointing how it all kind of turned out, but Stankoven's been phenomenal. Like, do you see him as kind of like a pace setter? Like he's like the Energizer Bunny out there. It's nonstop. It's almost like guys got to follow a little bit of how he's been playing. Would you agree?
I think Whitney's been awesome. You know, I can tell you, again, you know, it didn't work out with Mikko. Mikko and I will keep in touch. You know, I've talked to Mikko regularly in the playoffs, including, you know, that epic Game 7 against Colorado. But it was the right move to move him. And because it fell off and he was really disengaged at the end. And as soon as I heard speculation that Eric Tolsky and Jimmy Nill were working on a deal, truthfully, the guy that I wanted to be in that deal, not knowing it, you know, I've never been in the scoop business. I don't work at Baskin Robbins. I said to myself, I hope Logan Stankoven is in this deal. And I really did. And then immediately I got a text that I showed to Logan from Pete DeBoer, just singing his praises, how difficult it was to have him part of the deal come into Carolina. And Kamloops Blazer, I mentioned, you know, my relationship with Mark Recchi, and Rex told me, and nobody would know it better. And Rex said, Tripp, his will and his compete is off the charts. Can he find a way to live on the inside? And against this sizable, tough Florida group of defensemen, nobody has gotten to the inside more regularly in this series than Logan Stankoven. He is, without question, been their best player.
I watching Florida, I don't know if the Blues or the Rangers ever saw a day when Mikkola would be this good. I mean, that loss is enormous. You talk about Reinhart being out. Mikkola, the way he was going, it's like without him, he went flying into the boards with the shoulder. So going back into Game 5, right, they finally got a win. So the weight's lifted off their shoulders. They're going back home. If Mikkola and Reinhart can't play, like, I'd suspect Carolina's going to be right in this game as well. Like, do you think that winning one game will help take the pressure off that much, where they can play a little bit more at ease in front of their home crowd?
My gut tells me Mikko plays. You're making me think about, I did a game between the benches when he was a Ranger. I didn't notice him in St. Louis, but seeing that size and his ability to move, that game I did between the benches when he was a Ranger, I'm like, who is this guy? I'm a firm believer that momentum, especially against the Stanley Cup champions who are not going to get rattled, does not exist between games. So can Carolina not only be as desperate as they were last night, but even elevate their desperation? And boys, their starts, the Hurricanes, have been significantly better on the road than they've been at home. And so, you know, can Carolina locate their best start in their own building that they've had in some time against, you know, Florida's 7-2 on the road. So you can't come off of that desperation. I could go through every guy on the roster last night and say he made a positive contribution. If you get anything less than that, you're not extending this series. But if they can not just maintain their desperation, but elevate it, especially Game 2, which was the one really lopsided. It's as tough of a playoff game as I've seen here at home. For Carolina to have the ability to make amends here and it'll have to start with a good start. What an opportunity for this group. I thought it was good. The boys were excited. I was coming on Spittin Chiclets on the plane last night. And I think it was important, as long as it's been, to enjoy that win. And I'm sure they've this morning started to shift their focus as to, how they win another one. Because even at home, it's going to be tougher tomorrow night.
As good as Freddie was, I'd probably credit that win last night to Slavin, Burns, and Orlov. Like the bounce back game that Orlov had compared to the game before, like that takes a lot of mental toughness. I think Slavin registered 28 minutes. He had 4 block shots, 2 hits. Like he was absolutely everywhere. +3.
Hammered Barkov, crushed him on the wall.
Manhandled Barkov. Like that was like an all-time game that you'll remember as a Canes fan that he put in. I feel like more of the pressure in Game 5 at home to me will be on Jarvis, Aho, and Svetch to have the game of a lifetime. Would you agree with that? I feel like maybe they haven't, put together a performance that the Canes fans can be proud of, saying those are our guys, that's our core group, and we believe in these guys to get it done.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, touching on Slavin, Timmy Gleason, who obviously runs the defense, he really distributed his ice time this year where, it'd be so easy to lean on Jacob Slavin. And then you have 2 short series. And Slavin, what did he average? 24, 25 minutes in the 4 Nations. So he should be fresh. And so even with a big loss that everybody knows how big it is in Chatfield, and as well as Walker was playing, I've been hoping that Slavin's minutes would go up. He played 28 last night, and he played his best game of the series, specifically on Barkov. But I've been hoping those minutes would go up. I thought that, there's a couple of things here. After what happened with Aho and Svechnikov late in Game 3, those 2 players needed to be drivers last night. They got tremendous support, with the care factor of everybody else in that lineup. And I could get to that in a minute. But Aho had 7 shots. He's been a guy Craig was talking about, and there's only one Connor McDavid, and then, of course, the close second, Leon Draisaitl. There's one thing I'd say about Sebastian Biz. His best moments in his playoff career in Carolina have been in first rounds. And he needs to be a guy just like, and I know you're same draft as McDavid, but that as you get deeper and deeper, he doesn't fall off, he gets better. And I thought Aho was terrific last night. Paul Maurice last change, he's playing a lot against Barkov. And I love what Svechnikov did with that empty netter after Jarvis forced the turnover on Tkachuk. Svechnikov could have, powered it home himself, but I think he recognized the importance of getting it to Sebastian, which I thought was a quality play, and who knows how it could carry over moving forward. But, can those guys build upon it? Because I thought Svechnikov and Aho were great last night. I thought Jarvis had his best game of the series, and can they be the types of guys against a Stanley Cup championship team when you have some control over matchups in your own building that can be the difference coming off a game where maybe statistically they didn't get rewarded, but I thought they were all over it. In particular, really good defensively. Those 3 guys had a complete buy-in in their own end of the rink.
Do you think that there's a world, and I know you mentioned that you're close with them, but do you think that there's a world where if they lose this series that Rod could be saying his goodbyes? I mean, he's got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's been an amazing coach. I don't think he should even be talked about getting fired, but do you think that there would be people wanting him gone?
I think it's preposterous. I mean, I just,
I love Dan's teeing you up for it, though. We need a good soundbite. Let's go.
I'll tell you a story, okay? Because Jan's, the incredibly important piece you were to the Coyotes, for so long. And Biz and I first had our first conversation there at Glendale Arena. I remember sitting in that epic Renaissance hotel before a pregame meal, and I was lounging, having a cup of coffee, and Bill Peters was the coach at the time. Rod was the assistant. And Jordan Stahl walked by me, and Rod was, 15, 20 feet away. He couldn't hear us. But Jordan Stahl said, that's the guy who should be our coach. And, he has done as good of a job as any coach in the league of getting maximum investment and playing to your identity more consistently, or as consistently, I think, as any other coach. We've already identified that identity, there was a departure, Whit mentioned, and he's right, early in this series. But for me, absolutely preposterous. And then the big thing that I would look at is after game 3 on Saturday night, Rod challenged some of his guys. I have a feeling the guys that I think he was challenging. So when you're at a point, and then I think he was really stern with the group on the off day at the hotel in Fort Lauderdale. So when it gets hard, and you can go two ways, you can say this is just not worth it. We're going to go quiet into the night. Your coach has challenged you. If you did not have the supreme respect and admiration for the guy, there's no way, after I think he gave him the gears on the off day, that they would ever respond the way that they did. That should be the proof in the pudding in and of itself.
Last one I was going to ask, like, what are the keys for you going back into game 5? Obviously, the first 2 home games, like, I think by the time the buzzard sounded, there was 30% of the fans left in the building, which I was shocked by. What do you expect to see from Caniacs game 5? It should be the loudest the building's ever been. And what do they need to do in order to get another victory and send this thing to 6?
Biz, they got to have their best start that they've had at home in a while. They
need a lead.
They need a lead. They've got to be smart like they were last night, even if Florida scores. So you limit the bleeding. That's critical. And I'm going to point to one guy, because this came out. This was on the plane last night, and I was, I love what you guys have done for the game. That's genuine, right from the bottom of my heart. So, and I remember when Whit broke into the league, and Brooks Orpik was on the club in Pittsburgh. And so in 2019, Orpik's on the defending Stanley Cup champion Capitals, okay? And he had won a cup with Jordan Staal. And at one point in the series, Brooks says to me, he goes, you know what, Tripp? Jordan Staal is a load to deal with, no matter what. But when he gets angry, watch out. And I believe... And I Googled before we came on, what animal has the thickest skin? I believe it's a sperm whale. And I admire the heck out of this in Biz.
Relax, Biz. Relax.
Yeah, easy.
Relax, Biz.
It's still early.
Biz did the Hurricanes a huge favor, and I probably owe him a massive Houston's gift card at any location that he chooses, because he made Jordan Staal angry. And can he be, and even a great friend of the show, teammate of you guys, Jordan Martinook.
Why? Because I called out the fact that nobody stood up for Aho and Svetch, and I thought that to me was a little bit of a question mark on the culture. What's going on? Like, I know for me personally, I was dog shit. I wasn't a very good player, but if I saw one of my star players getting taken advantage of, I'd be coming over the top ropes.
You know what I'd say, Biz, is I would say the optic, I'm calling the game. I didn't like the optics of it. But what reigns supreme for me is, one, how much I liked Aho and Svechnikov last night, but more importantly, how hard of a game, starting with the captain. Jordan Martinook always plays hard to the ends of the earth. That's the type of response that you are looking for. And what I'm doing is I'm complimenting you, because I love it when Jordan Staal gets angry. I love it. I hope he can stay angry, because when he does, like he did late in that Washington series, he goes to another level.
I lit a fire under his ass is what I did. The whole fucking team. I should get a ring if you guys end up pulling this bad boy off. And I said to Marty before the game started, we had him on pregame. I said, you're a heart and soul guy. Like, you weren't on the ice. How did you feel about it? And one thing that stuck out, it was early in that first period. Kachuk was in front of Anderson, and he was trying to do his antic stinky mitt. And who was right there? Jordan Martinook, along with the rest of the guys. The other guys didn't fuck off either. They all stood in front of Anderson, and they were emotionally invested right from the beginning of the game. And to me, that was the difference. Right off the hop, it showed me that they had more. And whatever was said by Rod and whatever was being questioned of their team, that was, they had the answer. And more of that in game 5 and moving throughout the course of the series. I just had to call it like I saw it. And I'm glad that we saw that fight. Like I was emotionally checked out of this series. That game kind of pulled me back in to see, like, all right, let's see what they can get cooking at home here with this home crowd now.
Don't you, Biz? You commend both teams. You commend Florida because of the lead that they had for, taking their pounded flesh, but then for the Hurricanes to stand up to a man. A truly hardened game for Aho and Svechnikov, and both those guys were very good too. So I think you commend both teams. I mean, I liked it in the second period when Will Carrier, Luosterainen didn't want to go, but I'm watching him challenge Luosterainen going back to that hit that I thought you covered quite well with Jackson Blake. And, but I think that was a direct reflection of the conclusion of Game 3 and how much those guys care about Svechnikov and Aho and the way that they perform. And you can't come off of it even one bit. And I just hope, my friends have often called me the Angry Hornet. I really hope that Stahl stays an Angry Hornet because he can dominate when he is.
Before we let you go, I want to ask one more thing. And we got to, right, I see the hockey world got to see Slavin at the Four Nations. That was the point where people are like, holy shit. Had no idea how good he was. You already mentioned, I saw Buchagras talking. He's got to play 28, 30 minutes a game here moving forward. But he was drafted 4th round pick, came into the league, I think 14 games in the AHL and just taken off. Like, what have you seen his growth be like? What was he like right that first rookie year? Could you tell this was all going to be there? He had to be a late bloomer based on where he was drafted, but he's big and he can skate. So what is seeing his game grow and becoming maybe the best defensive defenseman in the league kind of in front of the Canes fans' eyes and your eyes been like?
Whit, baby, first of all, I believe the scout that deserves the credit for plucking him where they did in the draft is a guy by the name of Bert Robertson. And so a mention for Bert. And he did have me from hello. And I'll tell you a story because Whit, he's on the other side, our dear friend and one of Whit's agents, the great, I always called him Jerry Maguire, Paul Krapelka, part of Florida. And they also obviously represented, along with Bobby Orr, Rick Curran, the Stalls for, the entirety of their career. So we're in Vancouver. It had to be a month before Eric Stahl got traded to the New York Rangers. And it's out, we're having a coffee before getting on the bus at the Pan Pacific Hotel. And Eric Stahl, I tease him my cell phone as Mr. GQ because he was uncomfortable going to a GQ shoot being from Thunder Bay. So he asked me, Tripp, will you go with me? So he'd be comfortable when he was taking the pictures with the donkeys on the ocean and all that stuff. And so I've always called him Mr. GQ. So I said, GQ, what's going on? And he said, Tripp, with all of these tough years, I finally got to go now when they've got this Slavin, and he mentioned Pesci too coming. And he knew about Jacob Slavin. And that was what frustrated him more than anything because of all those difficult years. He could see what Jacob Slavin was going to be overlooking that beautiful scenery in Vancouver with Eric, Mr. GQ Stahl.
So you could tell. You could tell. Well, Tripp, you do a hell of a job.
Awesome.
You make watching the Canes games very fun. Well, at times I say they're a little boring to watch.
Here we go.
Your broadcast of it is exciting. We appreciate you coming on. You've done a great job. And let's see, Florida, they got to have some nerves that they blew a 3-0 series lead to force game 7 last year. Maybe Carolina can get that win at home, at least force game 6 back in Florida. We appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, tell the boys they've been starting at home like a bunch of pussies.
They're all
light another fire under their ass.
Hey, one question, Whit, because Jordan Stahl mentioned this to me on the plane last night, because years ago, Henry Stahl, first dad's trip in Pittsburgh, he said, oh my, is your dad's name John?
Dan.
Close enough.
Dan. He said, this Dan Whitney's one of the funniest guys I've ever come across. And so Jordan tells me on the plane last night, your mom and dad live upstairs from Henry and Linda Stahl on the west coast of Florida?
Yes. They ended up in Estero. They went to look at a condo, and they're looking around, and all of a sudden they walk down and they see Henry Stahl. And
random?
They're like, yeah. And then they live literally, I think they're 202 and the Stalls are 102, right on one of the holes on the golf course. So my dad gets to see Henry. Great family, the Stalls. I just thinking back to Jordan as a rookie, like 6'4", 230 as an 18-year-old. And I was like, holy shit, knowing that he was going to be the third line center in Pittsburgh for years to come. So great people. It's crazy how it's worked out. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see Jordan still doing what he's doing. And yeah, tell him I said hello, even though he hates our show because we've been carving his team for the past couple weeks. But we appreciate you, Tripp.
I said you guys were boring. I don't even think you guys are that boring. I think people are overblowing it.
Well, I'll tell you, because I just, guys, I was
Keith fired Rod a minute ago.
I was a goalie, so I never paid attention to anything. I remember years ago, I know you guys got to go, but Jimmy Rutherford grabbed me after a morning skate in Florida. We had been in Dallas, and he had watched the game on TV, and he said, "Tripp, I watched the game last night. I'm going to give you a grade." And I said, "What is it, Jimmy?" And he said, "G." I said, "G? What is that? Worse than an F?" And he goes, G for fucking goaltending. All you do is talk about goaltending. And from that day, in caps at the top of my game notes, because it's my comfort zone, I have tried to not talk about it too much. And I have, with passion, tried to get as comfortable in every other facet of the game, going back to that conversation. So systematically, when Carolina is dialed in like they were last night, I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. So, that goes back to Jimmy challenging me like he did. He's been very profound in my life.
Tripp, I just want to let you know, I wasn't the one who said Brendan Moore should be fired. It was Biz. I think he should be a lifetime contract. But thank you for coming. Appreciate
Listen,
you.
I'll light a lot of fires, but I ain't lighting that fire. I'm a ride or die for Rod for life.
Same.
I would go through a brick wall for that guy.
Wow. I just had an amazing interview with Rod. I don't know if you ever heard that one. Thank you, Tripp. We appreciate it. Awesome guy. Great analyst. We got another special guest coming on just quickly. And I know Ryan Warsofsky's waiting, but just shout out Florida because that's a lot of Canes talk, which we hadn't had anyone on all year. We'd had Jovo on talking about Florida, but what
fucking wrists are sore from stroking off Florida all season long here. We have to,
I know, but
we have to snap it around
Dallas
and Carolina.
You were all over them last series against Toronto. You haven't.
We were still talking about them.
Nice
we were still talking about them now, weren't we?
Say
Carolina.
One nice thing right now.
Say something very nice about Florida right now.
What do you mean? They're fucking wagon. I know they're a wagon. I just wasn't playing tummy sticks with them last round because we were going to war. I mean, fucking what isn't there to say? Bill Zito and staff, incredible. They should win management of the year. Bobrovsky, best goaltender on the planet, best money game goalie. I mean, Mikkola's fucking turned into Cale Makar, right? I mean, Forsling, probably the most underpaid defenseman in the league. He's only making $6.2 million. I mean, the list goes on with those guys. Best third line. I mean, Listo, Marchand. I could stroke these guys off all day, but Carolina needed to be discussed. Dallas needed to be discussed. And now, since 1933, the United States had not won a gold medal at the World Championship, and we are going to be honored today to have their head coach on, a guy who led them to victory, a lot of young guns, and America, they're on the rise, baby. There he is right there.
There's the jersey, too.
Couple clicks, baby.
Jersey
San Jose Sharks head coach and gold medalist, Ryan Warsofsky. What's going on, buddy? First off, congratulations.
Congrats, man.
Second off, incredible moment by you, talking about how Johnny Gaudreau's up there watching that happen. We saw the clip of Werenski sprinting to the locker room to get his jersey. Just an incredible couple weeks. I mean, I'm sure for you, it must have felt like you're over there 2 months. It's a long tourney. But talk to us how it feels. And once again, congrats.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Obviously, known Whitney and Keith for a while here. But it was a surreal tournament, long tournament, like you said. Felt like we were over there for 2 months. And the families come over and the wives come over and, gets a little bit better, but it was a great group of guys, Werenski, Cooley, Keller, Garland, some of our leaders really stepped up. And obviously Johnny was a big part of this, looking from up top. And I know his family's proud. I'm sure his wife is proud. And, that's just it was a total team effort. And it was obviously Z's idea to go get the jersey and bring it out, Werenski. And, it was very special and something that I think we'll all remember for the rest of our lives.
I was going to ask quickly, Whit, about the the helmet that you guys are giving out. What's the backstory? How did it come about? Because you see a lot of teams now in the NHL after they win, St. Louis, they had Kelly Chase's shoulder pads. Edmonton, I think they have like a defensive player of the game and an offensive player. Where did the helmet that you guys where did that whole backstory come about? And yeah, I'll just throw it over to you.
Yeah, it was actually Lawrence Filoni, who's a video coach in Nashville. He came up with the idea because back in 1933 was when Evel Knievel kind of came out, and we said, let's find some sort of image from 1933. So he kind of grabbed it and ran with it. And, I think as a staff, we talked about, I think it's going to be, when you win, you need someone to make it, block shot, big hit, win a puck on the wall, a big play, but that probably doesn't get recognized by, the average fan. So we usually gave that helmet out as coaches. We kind of rotated it around, and, it was a special. And then we obviously had Johnny Gaudreau's winter hat, was a player of the game. And I think that was very unique. We had his autographed hat on there. So the players would give that out. So again, it was a great group of guys. Very coachable guys, fit into roles. There was no egos. From day one, these guys were driven to win, and this, 92 years curse that you'd say.
Now, was there the kind of two-part question? I wanted to get your feel on Tage Thompson. I thought he got screwed on not being on the Four Nations team. I would imagine he's going to be a shoe-in for the Olympic team, but also, who's another guy that kind of you didn't know too much about and just kind of popped off the charts for you, whether it was, in the locker room or on the ice, just the guy that really, took over your eye?
Yeah, with Tage, for sure. I mean, the hardest shot I've ever seen. He absolutely can rip it. And, his game's maturing, and I think he gets kind of knocked a little bit there because of Buffalo and what they've gone through. But I think his game matured a lot through this tournament. Even his dad said to me after the tournament, he's like, this is the first time I've seen him dump in pucks, late in games and late in periods and play the right way. So I think it was really important for him to play, in this tournament. And obviously you saw him score the game winner, but he also scored throughout the tournament. And he wants to score. He wants to be an impact player throughout the game. And sometimes he gets frustrated, his emotions get high, but I think that's what makes great players great. And I think you need to play with that emotion. And I'm glad to see him get rewarded because he had some looks earlier in that game, didn't score, and he kind of just stuck with it. So definitely a player that I think, really should be talked about more for that Olympic team. And I think he will be. As far as guys that probably, I think Andrew Peeke was an important piece. In this tournament, you need to have some guys that can play the heavy minutes, that can, shut down a top line, that can block shots, really good on the penalty kill. He really surprised me, just the way how heavy he was. And the other guy I would say is Matty Beniers. And I know he's, a really good center in the National Hockey League, but the way he plays, he's a smart, high hockey IQ player, is underneath pucks, really good defensively. I think he's someone that kind of reminds me of a Bergeron type, just always in the right spot. Again, the list, I could talk about every guy that had a big impact on our team. And, we talked about as a staff and with Jeff Kelty and Chubbs there at the end of the game about, man, this roster in 4 years, there's going to be some superstars, and there's guys that are coming for USA Hockey. That's for sure.
Whit, I was just going to hop in quickly. It was Clayton Keller who wore the C, right?
Yeah.
And, I got to spend some time with him in Arizona, dealt with adversity when he broke his femur, and talk about a guy who's all in as far as like the off ice, the mental preparation, the diet, the exercise. Like, how big of an impact did he make to the lineup, and whose decision was it to give him the C and provide that leadership throughout that tournament?
Yeah, well, I think, it was him that kind of stepped up and said, hey, I wanted to come, and that's, this tournament can be challenging after the NHL season of guys, banged up and go through the grind of it. And Kel's, what everybody asked him, he said, yeah, I'm in. So I thought he led that in that way, just by starting that, guys accepting the invitation to come to the tournament. He's a guy that's played in the tournament. He's got experience. I thought he'd be the right guy to lead this team, and we'd have some guys that around him that can help him and support him, but he really stepped up. What surprised me is, this is he's played probably 10 years in the league, and he's asking to look at video after, we play hungry because he wanted to get better. That's what surprises me even in the NHL is how much guys want to get better each and every day. They're not, just going to go and kind of just glide through the season. Like, this is Clayton Keller, the captain of our team, you know, had 1-2 against Hungary. And he's like, hey, can you show me some video more? I got to work on my wall play. Like, those are the things. And I think that stuff's contagious. And then next thing you know, Tage is doing that. And next thing you know, Beniers and Will Smith and Cutter Gauthier. So, you know, I think that's all, you know, contagious and how we wanted to play and get better each and every day. And we talked about that, you know, and I think our team, you know, we went through some adversity through that tournament, and I think that was good for us, you know, and we lost to the Swiss early in the tournament. We gave up a lead to Norway. And our guys, I mean, we beat Norway in overtime, and you would have thought we lost the game 6-0. The guys were so rattled. And I thought that was what we needed really to, you know, have an understanding of how we need to play to win the tournament.
I want to talk quickly. You mentioned Will Smith. He's part of this generation of winning a lot of gold medals international hockey-wise and under 18s and World Juniors. And then this year, it's almost the beginning of the year. I'm like, oh, should this kid have stayed in college? But the last 30, 40 games, I mean, he looked incredible. Then he's over there playing for you. There's a clip of him burying someone into the boards. Not something that's been a big part of his game that you probably love to see being his coach in San Jose. Like, what did you see him grow as a player throughout the season? And then this tournament, was it kind of everything put together and his play was that good, similar to the second half of the NHL year?
Yeah, a little bit for sure. Like, he definitely got better as the year went on. The game slowed down for him. He let his skill set to come out a little bit. He got on the score sheet, and that's how these players, they want to get on the score sheet. So he gets a couple, his confidence grows. You know, a lot of it's the pace of the game. The NHL, it's obviously, as you guys know, it's extremely fast. The pace is nonstop. When you go against, especially the Floridas, the Tampas, the Edmontons, like, you take a breath for a second and you get put on your heels, you're going to get run through the walls. And he needed to learn that. And I thought he, you know, the kid is a special person. He is an extremely gifted hockey player, but he's an unbelievable kid, wants to get better, wants to learn, wants to, you know, he's a hockey nut. Like, he knows the history of the game. Like, he'll talk to Doug Huda and San Jose on the bus about, like, the Bruins game in 2014, like, game 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he's bringing up like plays that Andrew Ferentz made. Like, he is huge.
He was 9.
Yeah, and he just loves to learn about the game, and he's coachable. But I'll say this about these guys, these younger players, the Cutter Gauthiers, the Yves Bouillons, they have like this quiet confidence about themselves that they're like, yeah, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to be a really good player, and we're going to win. And I think they've learned that growing up, you know, through the national program, winning national championships. Like, you see them around the hotel and like, yeah, we're going to win tomorrow. Like, it's no big deal. And it's like, it's not like they're a huge egos, but they're just really a quiet confidence about themselves that they know they're going to figure it out. They know they're going to be good, and they're going to help the team, whether that's San Jose and with Will or Cutter and Will and Zeev, like whoever it was, some of those young guys that are, you know, super talented, and they come and go throughout the game. But then when you need a play, they can make a play. And when the game gets a little more, you know, with more pace to it, like, they step up. And I thought Will probably played his last against Sweden and against the Swiss. Those last 2 games were his best games. Complete games I've seen him play.
Going back to the Evel Knievel helmet, you passed it off to a trainer. There was a beautiful moment in the locker room. And just from that video, like, I didn't follow a ton of the tournament. You could just tell how much the group had gelled. Could we run this clip even with sound and start it off from the beginning? Let's start it from the beginning.
Johnny was here watching this one, hey? Yeah. He was up there watching this one. And this guy's getting the helmet. He's been with USA Hockey for the longest time. Over 20 years. What a
moment. What a moment that was. Let's go to the bar. So what's the backstory?
So Stan's in, I don't know if Keith, you guys in Whit probably knows him, but he's been with Team USA. This was his 57th team. And for Team USA, World Juniors, U18s, World
there in 1933, Biz.
Well, those Asians, they age well, eh? They don't wrinkle.
And he is the nicest guy in the world. He's the best. The guys love him. It was his 18th World Championships, and we had, you know, all the coaches had given it out. I wanted him to give it out, and I just said, screw it, let's give it to him. He's deserved it. Like, he lives in New Bedford, and you know, I live down that way too in Mattapoisett in the off season. I'm like, hey, you got to come golf. And he's like, I can't. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, my family owns a chow mein noodle factory. I'm like, so you can't come? He's like, no, my mom's like, I got to go back to work. I'm like, no, you're coming golfing this summer. No. He's like the heart and soul, like the works so hard, doesn't complain. Just an awesome guy that, I think all these young guys obviously came up through like World Juniors and being around him. So everyone knows him. He's the best.
Just going back to the camaraderie quick, like when you have a tournament like that, you have to gel super fast. Who were the guys in the locker room who were like the provided the light every day, the laughter? I mean, you hear about what Marchand provided to the team at Four Nations and just the laughs. Like, who were the jesters that really brought it all together quickly?
Yeah, I think, Connor Garland's one of those guys. He's a goofball a little bit and keeps the rim loose. But then when it's time to speak up, he was really good for our young guys. Then you had, Logan Cooley, who's a unique guy. But, I'll say this, like we were in Herning, Denmark, in a small town, and there's like a strip of restaurants and bars, and like the coaches will go to dinner and we go out for some beers after, and we wouldn't run into the guys ever. We wouldn't see the guys. I'm like, where are the guys? Do you come back? It'd be like 1 o'clock in the morning and they're all playing poker. Like all 16, 17 of them are just playing poker in the lobby. And I'm like, times have changed, as you guys know, like back in the
I'd be fucking balls deep in my room. Just
but like
away.
they were so into playing poker. That's what they did. They didn't really go out. I mean, there was a couple nights I'm sure they did, and especially after we won, but there was just it was almost like very business-like. The guys were extremely driven from the day we got to Germany on May 1st.
I got to ask you this, and this is kind of switching a little bit to Team Canada, but I can't imagine there was anyone more thrilled and loving the clips coming out of Macklin Celebrini just following and learning from Sidney Crosby for a couple of weeks. You saw the practice clips on face-offs. You saw them talking on the bench as his head coach kind of talk about his rookie season, how good of a player he is, and him learn a lot from Sid over the course of the Worlds.
Yeah, it was awesome. Awesome for him to experience that. He's obviously a very unique individual. This kid is, so self-driven, wants to get better, ultra competitive, wants to win.
Obsessed with the game.
Like obsessed. Got to kick him off the ice.
Yep.
Always working on his body. It's like he's 18, but like he's going on 28. It's incredible. And I think being around Sid will help him. I think in our situation, it was tough, right? We lost some games. We had some leads. We had some tight games, and learning how to win those tight games is the next step that, Mac and our young guys need to learn. And I think being around Sid can really help that, the detail that you need to play with, winning face-offs is a way to get possession and play with the puck more. Mac's a guy that wants the puck on a stick. And how do you do that? When you're in the offensive zone, win the face-offs. And now you get to play in the offensive zone. So there's some things in his game that he obviously needs to improve on, but he's a special, unique individual that really drives our group, drags guys into the fight at 18 years old is crazy to say. But then off the ice, he's the best. Like you'd want him to marry your daughter. He's the nicest guy and treats everyone with respect. Doesn't, signs autographs for kids, treats, because I think he has an understanding how much of a role model he is at such a young age is obviously impressive. But it was nice when I saw him. I ran into him in Stockholm at a coffee shop. And he was after that Denmark game. So he was a little down the dump. So we'll have to pick him back up.
Oh, it must be sick to have Joe Thornton around helping, help those guys grow, learning from him as well. I mean, that's just, that's going to keep feeding the organization as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. Jumbo is great. He's there every single day. You would think he's on the roster. He's in showers with the guys. He's in the gym working out.
He loves the rink, doesn't he? He's a rink rat.
He's literally the best. He keeps the energy, in the room loose, but you would think he's on the roster, and I love it. I think he's great to have for these guys to be around him. And, he was great early in the year when guys would take like the optionals that are, the second years, and he'd tell stories like, never took an optional in my life. Never, not once. And like these 22-year-old kid from Rush is taking an optional.
Yeah. That's usually not good when Joe's skating and you're
for
not.
A reason, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think
I took one in my career, and it was after I played the 11 minutes in Edmonton. I felt like I needed to put a body cast on. Remember that game, Jans, where we ended up winning it, and I got over double digits. I was going to ask you a tampering question. If you had the ability to sign any free agent forward and defenseman, who would you pick out there right now? Who's available?
Oh man, am I even allowed to answer that question?
Yeah, you are.
We're close. I'm gonna say no because there's.
What do you mean? What do you
they're
mean?
under contract till July 1st.
July
He names a
1st.
name right now. All of a sudden, the guy's getting San Jose fined $1 million bucks.
No,
They
I'm
don't
saying
have-
who
they
would you?
I already got fined 25 grand from the refs this year. I don't need to.
That was
I don't
great.
need
Yeah,
to-
what were you giving it to him that night? Biz, I didn't mean. I'm just trying to help my guy here, right? Like these guys are under contract till July.
Okay,
1st.
so you don't have to say names, but what do you think that you guys need in order to get to a different level?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be overnight success where all of a sudden you guys are in playoffs, but what type of player would you like to have there for those guys like the Will Smiths and the Celebrinis to learn off of, but also alleviate a little bit of pressure as well?
Yeah, well, I think down the middle we're in a pretty good spot. With obviously with Mac, Will is going to get another look there, and then we believe Wenberg's a really good third line center. But if you look, obviously our back end needs to continue to improve. And I think that's we had some. The Mukamadulin kid came in, and it looks like he's going to be a really good player, and we have Ferraro back there, who's a heart and soul guy. We need to add to that group. Obviously. With our power play, getting a guy that can run our power play would be obviously important to distribute the puck and more of a puck moving ability back there. I think that what's really we struggled the most. So I know Mike and his staff, is hard at work to, he knows it. We need to improve our roster and take the next step, and that's going to be important this summer.
Ryan, I just want to say, I know how hard you've worked, started in Curry College. Fuck, I remember you skating there. I was skating with you during the lockout and then start in the coast and work your way up. And I think especially for what you did with this team and getting a win since 1933, like your name should be in there for the, at least being on the staff for that Olympic team. I know Mike Sullivan's the head coach, but to have a guy around that, has helped them win that you've done, I think that would be unbelievable. I think you would be a huge asset for that team and bringing back a gold in the Olympics too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That'd be obviously a bucket list to play in the Olympics. Obviously, Whit did it, and that would be obviously that's like kind of the icing on the cake for some people. And we'll see if it happens. If not, it's I've always just kind of been where my feet are. If I'm coaching at Curry, if I'm coaching in South Carolina. If I'm the assistant coach, just do the best possible job I can do where I'm at. And if people call. But, I think this was a great experience. It was an awesome event and a great group of guys. We'll take a little time off and then you get, before you know it, it's September and you're right back in it again.
So, Keith mentioned it quick. You get to South Carolina after coaching at Curry quick. You guys lose in the finals. Then you're in Charlotte, move on to Chicago. You win the AHL, get hired in the NHL. It must seem like it's happened pretty quick, right? And what's cool is you've been at each level, similar way John Cooper did it. But did you even picture it happening this quick? Like you got hired in the NHL. I was so excited for you and your family, but it had to be quicker than you thought, even kind of dreaming about your future as a coach.
Yeah, for sure. It happened. If I thought looking back, I'd be here now, I probably would think you're joking. For sure. I didn't think it was going to happen this quick, but like I said, I just wherever I was, I just tried to do the best possible job. I learned under some really good coaches and Spencer Carberry, who obviously we just saw probably going to be winning coach of the year here in Washington. I worked with him for 3 years, went on to Charlotte, worked for Mike Vellucci, who was on the staff here at Worlds. Then worked with Quinny, and I got a lot of really important people around me that has helped me. With you mentioned Mike Sullivan, who's a close family friend, and got to know Torts and just a lot of different people that have helped me and helped me guide me. And I was probably early on, I was very green and just tried to learn as much as I possibly can and pick people's brains from coaches to players and just try to do the best possible job. And it's as you play when you play in the NHL and coach in the NHL, it's you're truly kind of blessed. It's the best league in the world, and I don't take a day for granted. I love my time here in San Jose, and it's a great league. It's the players are special. They want to get better. You're on, I was on the bus for 24 hours from Kalamazoo to South Carolina, Charleston, and now I'm on a private jet, going from Edmonton to San Jose. It's a little bit different, but I try not to change who I was back then to who I am now.
You mentioned Carberry, who the clips based this season in the locker room, seemed just commands a room. The team was very close. Unfortunately, they lose out to Carolina, but you mentioned him first. What was something that you could think of right off the top of your head that he taught you, that he maybe helped bring to your coaching career?
Yeah, and what was it about South Carolina where they're able to develop so many? It's Bednar, Carberry, like it seems like they just have this unreal pedigree of coaches that they're able to develop.
Yeah, I mean, well, first, like Carbs, one of the best communicators I've ever been around, and that's something that I learned. The way he communicates, the way, you know, how detailed his message is, it's clear, it's to the point. There's no gray area, you know. So whether that's individual meetings, whether that's a team meeting, you leave the meeting and you know exactly what it was about, you know. And I think that's what he's so good at. He can motivate a team. You know, if I always would, you know, talk to, you know, buddies around, you know, that watch the game, and I'm like, hey, Washington loses, they're going to respond the next night. You know, that he just always got them back on track. You know, and I think that's something that I learned from him is the way he communicates, the way he can, you know, motivate a team, you know, his details, you know, the care he has for, you know, the human being more before the player. I mean, the list goes on. He kind of molded me probably to the coach I am the most. You know, and I think South Carolina, you know, in that league, you wear a lot of different hats, and you're grinding. You know, there was times I would go into the office, I'd leave on a Saturday, and the guy there, and especially in Charleston, it's a great city. The guy's, you know, getting ready to watch, you know, Clemson versus USC, he's drinking beers, and you're going to the rink, and you're like, what am I doing here, making $7,000, you know, a year, like. But then you enjoy the grind, and at the end you're like, look, that was so worth it. You know, the stories I could tell from like the sleeper buses and the travel and whatnot is something that kind of what makes you. So you know, I think Rob Kincannon, the president down there, you know, from Dorchester, you know, Keith, Kooks, he's the best. I mean, he's put that whole organization together and keeps it together. And you know, obviously Bedsy was down there. Jason Fitzsimmons was a scout with Washington, and Cale McLean, who's assistant coach in Calgary. There's been a lot of coaches that have come out of there, and you know, I think Rob is the one that kind of keeps it all together. And the guy is, you know, he's a hilarious human being. The stories go on about this guy that you wouldn't even believe, but it's a great little, you know, group of guys down there that we try to get back there once a summer. You know, went golfing last year with Bedsy, Kooks, and Carbs. Before the season, and you know, for 18 holes we just talk hockey, and you know, whether it's experiences in South Carolina or the NHL, and that's how you learn, you get better, and I think that's what's so special about, you know, that kind of fraternity down there.
Does Bedsy rip the bong? He's so chill. Does he rip the bong? Like he seems like a weed smoker or something, doesn't he?
You know, loves his bourbon, loves being in the woods. The funniest guy you'll ever meet. Like
He's
the longest storyteller there is. He started a story the second hole, didn't finish to the 12th.
But like keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Oh yeah, keeps you right on the edge of the seat. He's the best.
Yeah. Another thing you mentioned about the ECHL, and when you coach, like you have to do it all, right? Like you have to make trades. You're basically like the general manager. You're booking the hotels. You have to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, you're making sure the bus shows up on time. You're doing meals. You wear like a lot of different hats, and it's something that you learn as like how to manage your time. And as you go up in the levels, it gets almost a little bit easier. And you know, I'll never forget. I was coaching there, and the bus driver. We were going from Atlanta back to Charleston. We played the next night, and we hit a deer. And in Georgia, you have to pull over and like wait for the police to write their police report. And we lost like our bumper in the bus seat. George is like, hey, you got to go put the flares out. And I'm like, we're on like 95, cars is flying by at 4 a.m. I'll never forget. I was putting flares out, and I like texted my dad. I'm like, Dad, I just put flares out. What am I doing with my life? Like,
I'm coming to M&M Trucking.
Yeah, I'm going to go work. I'm coming to work next week. Like, cars are flying down, and my clothes are almost coming off. The cars are flying so fast, and I'm putting out flares. And while the bus is smoking a cigarette, waiting for the police to show up. Everyone else is sleeping.
Using the flare as a light.
Having a beer, lighting a cigarette.
It was unbelievable. I'll never forget that.
He's cutting up the deer to eat.
Yeah.
This guy used to actually catch like alligators. It was he used to tell me a story.
Oh, you meet some characters playing in the coast. I played in Wheeling, West Virginia. Our sleeper bus broke down about 5-6 times before we even exited the city. We were halfway to Johnstown one game, and we had
not a very big city either.
Yeah, we had the booster bus behind us. We had to swap out all of our gear on our sleeper bus over to the booster bus because our bus broke down while the booster had waited for the sleeper bus to get fixed to then bring them to Johnstown so they could meet us up at the game. But I just got one final one for me. What is the most stressful aspect of making the jump and becoming an NHL head coach? I know you mentioned it becomes easier at the fact that you don't have to wear all those hats, but what was the most challenging thing this past year and just adapting and getting used to that role in a high pressure situation in the National Hockey League?
Probably just the grind of it. I mean, it's every other night, the travel, the practice time. For a younger group, we needed to practice. You don't have a ton of practice time. So you got to make sure your meetings are very clear and concise and to the point. And we're the situation we're in this is the NHL is at the end of the day, it's a results driven business, wins and losses. And when you don't win, you don't get that result. It's a challenge, and you got to keep pushing forward and help develop the players and continue to have that process of winning habits and getting these younger guys to understand how to play at that level was the biggest challenge. And then I think when you win in the NHL, it's almost like a relief. And then when you lose, you think the world's coming to an end. And I think every NHL head coach would tell you that. You go into Vancouver, you win, and the next night you got Edmonton sitting there for you. And then this anxiety and the stress builds right back up again. And then you lose and, you think the world's coming to an end. So dealing with that for me was, something that I needed to get better at and improve on. And, kind of you have tunnel vision and try to stay, where your feet are and what day you're at, and whether that's a practice or a game, and get the guys prepared as much as you can. And, but it's a challenge, right? Especially as competitive hockey people are competitive. They want to win, whether you're playing pickleball on a, off day in Fort Lauderdale or you're playing the Florida Panthers, you want to win. And, being competitive and you're not getting that result can be extremely difficult, so you have to kind of enjoy the grind and embrace it instead of, kind of fighting it.
Love it.
Ryan, we appreciate it, man. It's been really exciting to see you kind of rise in the coaching ranks throughout pro hockey, and to bring back a gold medal as the coach of that team is just something that will stick with you forever. So congrats. You come from an amazing family, great people. We appreciate you coming on, long overdue. And here's to better times in San Jose, right? It takes a while to really build into a contender in this league, but you're the right man for the job. So thank you for joining the show, bud.
If you had to add one of us to your roster next season, who would you add?
Oh, definitely. Probably Keith. We need a power play D-man so bad. So
Keith,
we
got your still play. Well, but Keith trained Ekblad when he was on suspension, and next thing you know, he's elbowing people in the head. So Jans might have changed his game.
Yeah, he's also playing great.
He's playing phenomenal, actually.
Well,
right,
hey, if you need anybody to protect Celebrini and Smith, I'll play for league minimum.
I think they're good.
Biz will have him in Vegas on off days, so you don't.
Who do you guys got protecting him?
I mean, Gaudreau does a good job.
We
have a young kid we just got from Ottawa, the Ostapchuk kid is going to be a good player. So I need these guys playing.
All right. Well,
and you have that. And you have that Sam Dickinson's coming. He's looking pretty sick. I mean, I've seen him play.
We have some guys coming. Dickinson, Haltunen, that's in both those guys in London. Musty, that was in Sudbury. So there's some guys coming. We see the light at the end of the tunnel here.
The future's bright. The future's bright.
Yeah, he's going to be a good player too. Big,
he's
long,
nice.
Got skill. Nice. Yeah, really good player.
All right, bud. Hey, have a great off season. You deserve it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Congrats.
Oh,
yeah, he showed it. I was going to ask him to
show it. We should get him on. Yeah, there it is.
Yes. Show that thing.
Wow.
Put it on. Put it on.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
I bet you I get you $15K on my eBay account for that.
That thing is money, dude.
I thought there was a hole in that thing.
There is.
Sick. Oh, okay.
Oh, we got pigeon tossed again. That was great, boys.
What a guy.
Three great interviews today.
You got to do an ad. I got to.
Yes. I got a couple ads right now before we get to the quick hits part of the show. We're going to start off with RO. RO.co. Let's talk about Rose Sparks, a 2-in-1 prescription treatment for stronger, harder erections. I know I'm getting into that one, but goddamn, if you're talking about stronger, harder erections, you got to be emotional with it, and that's ro.co. Rose Sparks dissolve under your tongue, meaning they hit your bloodstream faster than pills, so you can get ready for action quicker. Once the medication dissolves, they work in about 15 minutes on average, giving you the boost you need for thicker, longer erections. Yup, that's aggressive, but they're thicker and they're longer, and helping you last longer for more fun for both of you. Plus, RO Sparks stay active in your system for up to 36 hours. That means you can be ready to go for round after round or even the morning after, and no need for awkward in-person doctor visits. I may be sounding a little awkward right now, but RO makes you feel strong, confident, longer, thicker. Yes, RO connects you with a medical provider 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships right to your door. If prescribed, new sexual health patients get $15 off Sparks on a recurring plan. Connect with a provider at ro.co/chiclets to find out if prescription Rose Sparks are right for you. That's ro.co/chiclets for $15 off your first order.
Give me my dick pills.
Sparks. Yeah. Get Biz his dick pills.
I want
RO
100%
Sparks.
erection. I don't want none of that 85% nonsense.
No, yeah. Thicker, longer, harder erections. That's Spittin Chiclets. That's RO Sparks.
Give me the extra half an inch rope.
And Chiclets is also brought to you by DraftKings. The fastest game on ice has hit another gear. The Stanley Cup playoff legends are made, and every shift could turn the tide. And now the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you could take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. If you're new to betting on the Cup playoffs, you're in for an exciting time. Get started. It's easy. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. And here's the kicker. New customers bet $5, score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a playoff payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Chiclets. That's promo code Chiclets to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. So, guys,
I wanted to ask you quickly about is it, how do you say his last name?
So
Warsofsky. So
they have so 4 boys. We got Adam. I think it goes Adam, Jared, Ryan, Dave. Dave Warsofsky, star at BU, played in the NHL, hell of a player. Ryan played himself. Adam's son, Chase, is a very good player. He plays with Keith's nephew. So Ryan's nephew, Chase, plays with Keith's nephew, Colin, at Cushing Academy. They won it all this year. New England Prep. I believe Chase just got asked to go to the National Festival, for players' 09 birth year. Great player, great family. And so the dad, Mr. Warsofsky, and his wife, Dawn, Mark and Dawn, great people. He started a trucking company years ago, Biz, and it just took off. M&M. And I think for times, Buddy has worked for them, correct, Keith? Your dad?
Yep. Yeah, he did.
So great people, hardworking. And Dave grew up playing with my brother, Sean. So the Yandles, Whitneys, and Warsofskys have a connection. So happy for him. And, I mean, to see his rise being that quick, Biz, I think you were on the shitter, but, it's kind of the Coop model. Like, I mean, he wasn't in the USHL, but go to the coast, get to the finals, wins in the AHL, quickly up in the NHL. So San Jose's got a good one there.
Seems like very personable. Like the guys love him, and you saw like at Worlds, like how quickly it became a family there. So was there really no shock that at quick as the rise was for him, knowing him from back home?
I remember we did a segment when I was working with Sportsnet, and it was like, who do we think the next head coach in the NHL is going to be? And I didn't know anyone really, so I just said him. And like, I got text when he got hired from like Cassie Campbell and Ace and David Amber. They're like, how the fuck did you know that? I'm like, I just took a guess because he's a family friend, but so not surprised, just because he's won everywhere. He's won in the coast, he's won in the AHL. You can even see, like, we've talked about it this year, like, they obviously weren't the best team, but they were fun to watch. You get guys like Celebrini and Smith, and they're not just out there playing pond hockey. You can tell he's got some structure to their game, and he's not letting them cheat the game where some of these young guys come in and they want to just go out there and get points and score goals.
Bedard.
I didn't say that. But you can just tell that he's got that crew kind of locked into playing the right way and earning it, because I think that stems from him knowing what it takes to win, and he's done it in different leagues, and obviously going to try to do it at this level as well.
It was interesting to hear him say, because we mentioned Will Smith struggling at the beginning, and then he was playing a lot of wing, but he said right there at the end, like he's getting another crack at 2C. So if you have Celebrini at first line center and Will Smith, you're kind of, next 10 years laughing here, right? If these guys turn out to what I think they will be, and a lot of prospects coming, that Dickinson's a hell of a defenseman. So Sharks fans like you said, Keith, last year was like, holy shit. Like I literally wouldn't watch them. And then this year it was fun. You get a couple new players in. It's a good team to watch. Let's see where it goes. So bright future there, I think. We got some other news, Biz. I think we got to start. Shanny's out. Your guy is out. The jacket's being returned. What was your takeaway? I thought he released a great statement. I think the organization is in a way better spot than when he took over, right? And they weren't able to get over the hump. But do you want to say anything on him moving on?
Yeah, I mean, like I said it on Game Notes. A lot of fan bases and teams would be happy with making playoffs for the amount of years they have in a row. Obviously, the playoff success hasn't been there. It's unfortunate that it's came to the point where it's going to be dissolved to a certain degree, in a sense of like, you don't know if JT's coming back. It's more than likely Marner's not coming back. I don't know enough of like the background story on, whether there was rumblings that maybe Dubas wanted to move on from Marner. Maybe it was in fact Shanny who did, or vice versa, whatever it was. And essentially they nixed it, right? And they kept them, and they decided to trust in the process and figuring it would eventually turn around and work. So, at a certain point, I guess they got to change things up and look at a new direction. But there are successes in the midst of it, and then there are failures. And when you're the guy at the top, I guess you got to eat that to a certain degree. And I'm sure looking back at his tenure, there was some some of the mistakes that were made. I mean, I would view the Hyman situation. I would probably say in what they had, hiring Dubas at the time they did was maybe like a weird move, I find, just in the sense of, an inexperienced guy at the helm, where it was such a pivotal moment in the organization's time. Get overpayment of those guys, not having the money to sign Hyman, moving on from Kadri when they did. A lot of people say, well, it was back-to-back years. He took those suspensions in playoffs. Mind you, I think that we were in a time where the wokeness online was dictating suspensions and the way the game was going. And that's unfortunate, because you had him at such a cheap number, and then you panic move off of him and you don't get enough back in return. So it sucks. Like I really feel that there was an opportunity to make this team a cup winner and a cup contender. And now it's they're going to have to do so without his help. So I hope that he's able to move on and go find work somewhere else. But I appreciate everything, like I said, he did for us at the All-Star game last year, and make me feel as small of a part as I was as a part of it.
Guys, Alan Walsh told a pretty interesting story on his podcast this past week about Marc-Andre Fleury and how they actually had a trade in place to send him from Chicago to Toronto. And he was going to play out the second half of the season, wanted to make a playoff run in Toronto. Dubas believed in the deal. Chicago believed in the deal. And then Dubas told Alan Walsh, this just has to go up the chain. And once it got to Toronto ownership, the deal got nixed. So I wonder, how often was Toronto ownership stepping in on deals and pushing them to make deals?
But what would that have changed? Like, to me, that's not
and also like
what do you mean? You get an experienced goalie. Goaltending's been their biggest issue in the playoffs.
No, it hasn't been their issue.
I think last year it was it not, or 2 years ago?
I wonder if if they'll give Flower a ambassador's jersey for almost being a Maple Leaf.
When are you gonna fucking let that die, you fucking asshole?
They grabbed you on waivers, Biz. I'm with you.
That's what I'm saying, bro. They wanted me.
Could have been.
I was like, my services are not
Flower
available.
too. That's what I'm saying.
I went and helped you win a fucking couple playoff rounds there, all the way to the Western Conference Finals. 2 games. How about TNT putting 2 NHL playoff games played on my name
I know
bar?
they just don't
Like,
need to
come
put
on.
it there. I know,
Like,
man.
fuck
That's your
off.
network too. Like, just don't even put it.
Yeah,
Just put my
graphics guy's gonna
career
get a right
pins.
hook. I'm gonna be in
2
lunch
career
line.
playoff games.
They could say went to the Western Conference Finals. They don't need to know how many games were
Yeah,
played.
control the
Exactly.
aux
Played in
cord for
Western
an
Conference
overachieving
Final.
Coyotes team.
Aux cord
Serve
legend.
the team dinner at Western Conference Final. Put on
So
the
going
song.
back to what G said, like I don't know what they were going to be getting off of as far as like an asset to get a rental and Flower, and I don't know if at that point that was the answer. Once again, like I think the biggest one was maybe nixing the fact that they could have moved on for Marner, actually got something of value, and all of a sudden you're not losing the guy for nothing. And given the fact that he hasn't really done much in crunch time games 5 through 7 in any playoff series throughout his tenure. What was it? No goals in 20 games, 5 through 7 in any playoff round throughout his playoff career. So I am going to go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast for people who were not around. Like out of spite, I just want them to fucking offer Marner 8 times 12. If he didn't take that, I'd say you're a coward. Move on. See you later. If the noise is too much for you in Toronto, the reason the noise is so big is because you fucking bent us over for 11 on entry level, and we really got nothing for it come playoff time other than these 100-point regular season performances. So Nyes would have to take 8 times 8. If Nyes thinks this is the problem with guys in Toronto, though, they have this overinflated ego because they're reading their names in the press clippings after they have one good season. Like, hey, great job, Nyes. I truly believe that you're a first line future in Toronto. But if you think that you're worth more than 8 times 8, maybe 8 times 8.5, if you really want to lock him in for the full 8 years, bro, you've had one good year and you get to play with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Sign the fucking deal. If you don't want to be here, fuck off. That's what they got to start telling guys moving forward. You got guys that want to play for the front of the jersey. I'd rather have a full team of fucking second liners working their dick off and falling short and pushing the limits all the way to game 7 than having fucking guys bail out and playing flu hockey. Like, I want guys who want to wear the jersey, and Marner can prove that if they offer him 8 times 12 and he doesn't want it, get packing, fuck off. Seriously.
That's a state of a
what do you mean?
Union.
You think that's
he
that's
would say no to that so fast, and that makes
and
your
fuck
point.
do you think
off.
he's going to
See
get?
you later, buddy.
How much
See
do you
you
think
later.
he's going to get?
Buddy,
Bye-bye.
He's got 31 teams, right? Taking out Toronto. He's going to get at least 13 million bucks, if not
nice.
13
Okay.
and a half, 14. And do I agree with it? No, but it takes one team to do it. And I think it's going to happen. Now,
I think it is,
Biz, I respect what you're saying, man. And I think that Toronto will make sure that the offer sheet with nice stuff maybe doesn't even get to the offer sheet. They get him signed
And
before.
Leafs fans might think I'm crazy. If you offer him a healthy deal and financial security for the rest of his life after having one big season, if he says no and wants to play that game, fuck off.
Well,
Fuck off.
why can Jack Hughes, why can all these other studs take the 8 times 8 and he can't?
I'm
agree
so
with you.
over the whole fucking pay me. Fucking do something. Win a mug or some hardware before we start handing over these ridiculous deals. Jans is gonna say, "What is it? Your money?" No.
I'm not. I'm with
I
you.
love how he's calling it the mug. All of a sudden, this episode, win a mug. I love
mug.
that.
Mug.
I haven't heard a mug in a while.
Mug.
My Oilers are on track
Because
to
I
get
got
a
my mug.
But we
Biz,
got other
but-
news.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
want to
just
talk
gonna
about
say,
the Leafs
go-
for another 30 minutes.
Going back to Shanahan, I don't know exactly what a president does, but you look at he's been there, what they've drafted, what they've they've made the playoffs a ton of years. Like, he's done an amazing job there. You can't blame him too much for everything. Like, he's gotten them to the point that they're getting in the playoffs every single year, which is huge for any organization, never mind the Leafs. So I think he's going to go on to do great things, as Brendan Shanahan always will. So
No doubt. Well said, Jans.
Can either one of you guys, though, because I think it's maybe confusing to fans, even to me at times, like, you have the GM and you have the president. I think people wonder, like, who is in charge, right? Like, for example, you see Vancouver and Rutherford's the president. Is it Patrick Alvin? What's his name? And the GM.
Yeah.
So it's like, I do think at times it's like, who is the final say? Like, does the president just take over everything? Like, I think fans have a right to wonder, like, what does the president do? Or if he's doing it all, what does the GM do? Do you get what I'm saying there, Biz?
Yeah, I just don't know enough.
I don't know
what goes on behind the scenes as to who has control. Like Aquilini in Vancouver, yeah, he's calling the shots. My assumption is that he didn't want to get rid of Petey, and he was willing last year to pay him the money that they paid him in order to silence all the noise and the fact that he was having the decline. But as we know, when you have owners who don't have a hockey background and they want to stick their nose in a little bit too much, it can really hurt your organization. And sometimes it's like Carolina. Like, I truly believe that owner is way too involved making decisions. Like, was the Kotkaniemi not a spiteful offer sheet that they stole about the Aho thing, and all of a sudden you give Kotkaniemi 8 years? What's he making? 4.82 for what?
We didn't bring up his hit, by the way, where he swung his leg around and his stick. Like, who was that defense?
Well, at least he's fucking doing something out there for $5 fucking million. I mean, they got him.
Zito, but Zito in Florida, he's the president and the GM. Like, I just feel like maybe it's just title, but when you have one of each, two different guys, there has to be some sort of too many cooks in the kitchen here. Unless the president is like, I'm just the head figure and you're calling all the shots. But if you have different opinions, then what is one guy worth more than the other?
I don't know. But all I want to go back to is asking you, Whit, if Marner has done what he's done with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's proven that he can't live up to those big moments come in the second round, all those 5 through 7 games. If they offer him 8 times 12 to stick around, do you think he's a coward if he doesn't take it?
I wouldn't say coward. That's a harsh word. I would say that
why?
I would say he has no desire to be on the Maple Leafs anymore if he turns that down.
Especially getting booed on his way out. Like, it just
But you
like
said that, and a few fans pushed back where it wasn't directed at Marner. It was directed towards the team. You're saying every time
his last two shifts, and he didn't play the last 3-4 minutes. When he touched it, it got louder. For sure. Yeah. For sure. And I wouldn't say coward, but I'd say if he wants to be on the Maple Leafs, if he's like, I'm from Toronto and this is not done yet, then he would accept 12 times 8, 100%. I'll go with you on that. Deal?
Yeah, it's fine.
Getting that extra year too.
He's getting the extra year, so that makes up for the fact he's not making that $13 million. And I don't know, man. I just feel like he's got something to prove to Leafs fans, and I think that he can completely change the narrative if he was willing to take a little bit of a hometown discount, given the fact he hasn't showed up in those big moments.
It's $96 million to remain a member of the Maple Leafs.
How much has
he made? How much has he made?
I agree with you.
75.
Yeah, no, I'm speaking as you are.
They're all agreeing.
That's why
they're all agreeing.
That's why I fucking use the word coward. Because it's like they're still offering him $96 million. They're still saying we believe in you, and because it got a little noisy when I didn't show up, I'm gonna go somewhere else where it's less noisy. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I get what you mean now.
This was the Biz we thought we'd see.
He needs a mug.
And I'm saying that I'd still be willing to hand that over to him.
He needs
so don't
a
question
mug.
my fucking loyalty to Marner.
Get a mug.
And even if I'm Marner in his camp, I haven't been offside with anything that I've said. I'm still saying I believe in him. Let's fucking get it done in Toronto, buddy. Let's fucking get it done here. And if you walk, if you fucking walk, I'm done with you.
Hey, what if he signed somewhere 7 times 7?
If he signed 8 times 12, that would bring his career earnings up to, I think, $166 million. So, I mean, I think that's
bro. You could pound my old lady if you paid me that much money. Like, I'd fucking sit in the Diddy chair in the corner and watch. 166 million. You haven't fucking scored a goal in games 5 through 7. And I'm giving you 166 fucking sheets. Let's move on to the quick hits before I have a nervous fucking breakdown. Bring back the fucking core 4.
I think that Islanders fans have some excitement in their life. And shout out me, who basically got them the first overall pick. When I talked, the clip came out at the Sandbagger with the foreplay crew on the range. I'm like, well, you did it again. You kind of battled throughout just to miss the playoffs, and now you're not going to get a high pick. And boom, the Whit Mush gets them the first overall pick. Lou is gone. The players can now grow beards and use clear tape the way they want to use it on their shin pads. And Matthew Darche comes in. Now, this has been a name that's been rumored in GM openings for quite a while, I feel. He spent time with Tampa Bay, and he's worked his way up. Actually, based on his Wikipedia page, after he retired, it says he served as vice president of sales and marketing in Canada for Del Mar International, which is a freight forwarding service that's based out of New York. So kind of out of the game, if that Wikipedia is true. You got to trust it on the internet, on Wikipedia. But then back into the game and has worked his way up, and now he's getting the chance to take over a team who, God damn it, were the Islanders close to winning a Stanley Cup. They lost 1-0 in the Stanley Cup final against Tampa Bay in Game 7. And remember, guys, they were playing the Canadians. No, it was the Cup final. It was the Cup final. It was the Canadians. That thing was done. The Canadians, that was it. That was, and it was
Terry Price was shooting Roman candles out of his asshole that whole run. There's no way they were winning that Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, he had done so much, but the Islanders since then, it's been the older core. It's been not trading Palmieri at the deadline. They didn't trade Anders Lee, their captain, at the deadline. They did get rid of Brock Nelson, where they got, is it Cal Ritchie? Is that his name? Somebody correct me quickly.
Yes, Cal Ritchie in the trade.
Stud from Colorado. You have Yzerman from BU. That was a first-round pick. You have, I don't know what's going on with Dobson, but like they're now with the first overall pick coming, which also means the 33rd pick, which you can get a hell of a player at. Now there might be some maybe different style hockey in Long Island. Do they move on from some veterans? Are they able to kind of maybe even not try to get in the playoffs this year and strip it down a little bit more and realize it's going to be a little time here? But the Islanders fans got to be excited, because while Lou is this Hall of Famer and did a hell of a job there, considering where they were when he got there, the time had come for some new blood, a new leader, and Matthew Darche is the man. So I think overall, Islanders fans, let us know in the comments. Are you as excited as I've heard some people?
Oh, Jans has something.
What if Marner does what JT did to the Islanders, to Toronto, busy boy?
Dude, he would be nasty in Long. Like that's
him
kind
and
of
Barzell, him and Barzell fucking dancing around out there. Dobson, the core 3. What
for
are we
7
doing?
times 10. Biz just punches a hole in his wall, and then he comes out in the press conference and he's like, hey, this happened because that asshole fake ambassador Paul Bissonnette, he dogged me time after time after time, and now he's hanging by a Toronto Maple Leafs necktie in a hotel room in Atlanta, getting chirped by even his producers for playing 2 playoff games in his career.
He's like, the Islanders offered me 7 times 15 a year, but I took 7 times 7 just to shut Biz up so he can get more players. And then they offer sheet Nyes, and then Nyes goes there too.
If Marner goes to the Islanders, he better put a fucking restraining order on me. I'll tell him that.
I think he already has
that's going to be used in a court case right there, folks. I respect it, Biz. You're a man that speaks what you truly feel, but that could end up being in a court case.
You're saying Nyes is going to jump ship too to Long Island as well?
Yeah, because Marner's gonna get offered 7 times 15. He's gonna say, you know what? I've made a ton. Give me 7 times 7. Let's go offer sheet Nyes
with the extra dough,
and then get Stolars on waivers. So
I go right to fucking Walmart and fucking get the.
Now the question, I guess, remains: does Patrick Waugh stay as the coach? Don't know. Seemed to be that he had some choice words for like the roster makeup at times. I don't know if a new GM necessarily wants a coach who will kind of maybe call him out a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen there, but exciting hire who everyone around the league has said would be a guy who'd become a GM at some point. So Islanders, there you go. And you're welcome for the first overall pick. The Blackhawks hired Jeff Blashill as their next head coach. I don't know how Blackhawks fans feel about this. Been the assistant in Tampa the past 3 seasons, was the head coach in Detroit from 2015, 2022, as you see right there. Biz or Keith, did you have a takeaway? Were you surprised? I think they were probably going after some other people. I don't know if maybe that job isn't what people are looking for right now.
Well, they
some
originally
coaches.
were talking to the DU coach, Carl. And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know if it was because maybe he wanted a little bit more say in decisions that were being made and wasn't going to get that right. Yeah, I feel like he does have a little bit of experience. I mean, he was last in Detroit. Where was he before that? Assistant in Tampa?
Yeah, last 3 seasons.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you hope that he's going to be able to get through. There's going to be still some rough years ahead, but seems like he was a college coach beforehand too. Was it Miami of Ohio?
Yeah, and Ferris State for I think he coached college for 10 years in the
so
USHL.
I feel like he can relate to the younger players and is more of a new school type of coach who's not going to be crazy hard on them. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he's able to do with that young group and if he can get through to Bedard and how much talent they're going to be able to attract in order to continue to grow that organization back to what it once was. So I don't really have much else.
We didn't ask Ryan Warsofsky, but a bright spot for the Hawks is not just Bedard and Vlasic on D. It's Frank Nazar. I'm sorry if I'm messing up his name, but the kid can play. It was his first year pro, spent time in the AHL, lit it up, was up playing phenomenal hockey at the end of the year for the Blackhawks, looked great at the Worlds, so they have him. But looking at Blashill as the head coach in Detroit, they lost in the first round his first season, missed the playoffs his next 6 years. So I think as a Hawks fan, it's like, all right, well, kind of was maybe hoping for somebody with a better track record as a head coach, which I get.
But who's even available? Like, I don't.
Well, there were a lot of guys available, but they didn't want that job.
But who? Like, who's available?
Well, I mean, Mike Sullivan ends up getting hired, right?
But I'm saying like
Pocket's available. That's what I'm saying. There were big names, but they're not
outside of those guys though, like who's the next option? Like who's still sitting at home?
You got a cousin or something you want to give an NHL job to right now?
I'd say maybe the
oldie.
Yeah, Canadian oldie would be good. What about he was
Laviolette?
in New York.
Laviolette, the chat just says right here.
Yeah, Laviolette.
Benny Barr. Merle's buddy at Maine. Maybe that was a guy they could have gone after.
Who was the one who was in Florida got canned, Vegas got canned, New York got canned?
Turk.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where
Woodcroft is a young guy who, like, I feel like they got off to that horrible start a few years ago. And do you feel like he unfairly got the axe and deserves another job in the league? Like you're the Oilers guy, Whit. Like, do you see Woodcroft getting his feet wet again?
Possibly. I could see that. I mean, have there not been rumblings that he could be the Bruins coach? Look, from an Oilers fan, Woodcroft would be great for any developing team. Yeah, I mean, Edmonton, they had some good teams. It was just time, like you could tell they needed a change. But I would be shocked if he didn't get another chance. That's actually, I wonder if Chicago even reached out to him. It seemed like Chicago was set in stone on getting David Carl. And what was told to us is a big offer, and he still decided no. So that's when they're like, oh, shit. Like, and Jeff Blashill's been a coach forever, but he obviously wasn't their first choice. Let's say that. But let's see what he can do. With a team similar to San Jose, they got a long way to go. Can he be the guy who gets them back into the playoffs and into the mix and makes Bedard play a certain way while keeping his skill and his creativity and all his offense there? Can he get him to play a different style
I'll
hockey?
fucking make Bedard do it. I'll go on a couple more hikes with him
there'll be
this
another
summer.
restraining order. Little righty forwards who are skilled are your restraining order kryptonite.
I'll fucking whip him into playoff shape. I'll be hey, Marner, Bedard, you guys want to lift a mug? Come talk to old busy boy here. Calder Cup champion.
Calder Cup champ.
I'm the only one who's got a ring out of 3.
2 games played in the Western Conference Final.
No, one of them was in the first round against the Detroit Red Wings. We got swept that year. I played game 4. Got the shake
against
Hey,
Datsuk.
I got to shake Nick Lidstrom's hand. I don't think Stevie Y was still in the lineup
basically
then.
Like winning a mug, shaking.
That's
his
basically it's winning way was rubbed off on me in that handshake line, and then that's why later on got to a Western Conference Finals a few years later, and then of course a Calder Cup champion, in which some people look at my hockey DB and say you had no points during that whole Calder Cup run. Points aren't everything. I do the intangibles.
Yeah, setting up dinners, playing the music. That's what wins you mugs. Thomas Tatar, guys, he signed in Switzerland. Next 2 years, played 927 career NHL games, 496 points, had some really good runs with a bunch of different
How
teams.
many games did he play?
It says 927. Is that correct? This is on the notes.
All
That's
time
kinda like,
the Montreal fans. Thomas.
Yeah, 920. I would have honestly guessed like 450.
Who was it from the Islanders we thought played his
No,
400th
he's been
game
around
and he
forever.
It was
Lee.
no, it was
wasn't Brock
Blake-
Nelson.
It was the righty. We can't even think of his name right now. This is pathetic.
Well, we've been
from
going
Minnesota.
245. Look at us. We're
Nielsen.
on a marathon.
Nielsen?
No,
Was
no.
it Nielsen?
No.
Oh, this is so bad, man.
It was Andrew
Ryan
Kopp.
Trottier?
It was
No.
Andrew
Nope.
Kopp before
No,
the
it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It was
No,
Josh
no.
Bailey.
Bailey.
Josh Bailey.
He comes flying in with Andrew Kopp, who was never even on the Islanders.
Just
never
worry about
played
your
in the
fucking gargoyles tracksuit and bag licking.
What are you
Nick Tico
talking
Stern
about,
or
Jake?
Marco
Well,
Stern.
right before the sandbagger, we have the clip. Biz also forgot Andrew Kopp even played in the NHL, if you guys remember that too. So that happened as well.
No,
Yes,
Was
it
it
did.
that-
He's like,
Ludwig
you're a
has
cop.
no idea who
You're
I
a
was.
cop, right? He's like, no, it's my
You were
last
asking
name.
us on the way there, and I was like, he played 400 NHL games. You're like, what? No, I didn't even know he played any.
yeah, I think I was being sarcastic about being. I didn't even know he played in the show, but I knew he dipped his toe in. But
That's like
Whatever.
Ludwig had no idea who I was.
can we just talk about Marner again?
Russia banned from the Olympics, guys. Bummer. Bummer. People are fucking flipping out. Wow, can you say that's a bummer? War crimes, horrible. Just want them in the hockey Olympics.
That's
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah, this has
Just-
nothing
I
to
just-
do with
I
dropping
just want to
nukes.
see Ovechkin and Kucherov and Nikishin and the goalies. And
I want to see the torch passed off. It's going to be would be the last opportunity that Ovechkin, Malkin, who's one other older guy who probably this would be his last Olympics. I mean,
Andrew
Panarin, maybe. What'd you say?
he said Andrew Kopp. We're getting
Kopp.
fucking. Can we end this
Kopp off.
podcast?
Yeah.
Kopp.
Congrats to the Minnesota Frost. Won back-to-back Walter Cups in the PWHL.
Kendall
I think I'll put
Coyne
the game
Schofield. What a legend, dude. Back-to-back mugs.
How many games of those went to overtime? I think it was
All 4 of them. They won 3-1.
it was all 4.
All 4.
So that's some action PWHL popping off. If you haven't watched, please on the 4Play channel, go watch Spittin Chiclets 4Play 27-hole bonanza. There'll be more to come with that. Game notes, Friday, noon Eastern. Can the Edmonton Oilers take a commanding 3-1 series lead tonight in the Terror Dome? I believe they can. Can Carolina force a flight back to Lauderdale for Game 6? I believe they can as well. I need that series to go longer. I don't need Florida finishing that off and waiting around for us in what could be the most epic Stanley Cup final rematch we've ever seen. Yes, Detroit and Pittsburgh went to 7 that second year, and Pittsburgh got the win in Detroit. As I was sitting on my couch, literally crying after they won. But
I was with you.
I could be crying tears of joy this year if McDavid somehow beats the Florida Panthers Game 7 in Edmonton this year. A long way to go. I'm not counting out the Dallas Stars like a lot of Oilers fans, and I'm not counting out the Hurricanes either. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you to Craig Ludwig and his shin pads, Tripp Tracy and his love of Rod Brindamore's mom walking her down the aisle, and Ryan Warsofsky, gold medal winning coach in the World Championships. Love you guys. Love you, Chad.
Hey,
See you
quickly,
next
this
week.
is Chiclets memes.
Look
the
at his
Leafs
phone.
the Leafs taking back Biz Nasty's ambassador jacket. Oh, there's
And then
Oldie.
Oldie.
There's Oldie, baby.
All right, get us off. Get us off business.
Love you,
Bring him
boys.
back to core.
Oh, that's the new president of the Leafs.